The pursuit of greatness begins at first light. Who will be victorious? Only time will tell.
Spa has long been a diabolical test for drivers. Changeable weather conditions, mountainous terrain, and high speeds create a bubbling pot of excitement for viewers. With GT3 cars being amongst the most popular road cars on the iRacing service, today is set to become a crowd pleaser as we get ready to watch the Major's 2.4 hours of Spa. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. We could wax on for a while about the beauty and danger of this course, but the best way is to show instead of tell. Let's head to our track guide for more.
Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchemont have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round.
Well, Adam, we've had some endurance races already this season, but this is one that shows up pretty regularly here on the major schedule.
Absolutely, Joe. The Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps is an absolute classic in auto racing and has reached legendary status among sports car fans and drivers, with the real Spa 24 just concluding a couple of hours ago. We're thankful that Jack Aitken, Davide Ragone, Kevin Estra, and Frank Pereira are all relatively okay as they proved the extreme challenge and danger of this fast circuit after a massive incident coming through Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Our drivers tonight will be thankful for the virtual world we race in, as these GT3 cars feature limited downforce and power, but still reach speeds upwards of 160 miles per hour before the braking zone at the end of the Kemmel Straight, where they lack downforce, and they definitely have to face it when they come into the downhill dive to Brussels through Stavelot, as the immense weight of these Class 3 cars attempt to drag them off the circuit. Drivers will not only have to contend with their cars, but also with the limited incident points tonight. 50 incidents will get you disqualification, and with multiple places to pick up off tracks and slowdowns around Spa, it may be tight for some of them. The best passing places are up the Kemmel Straight and late braking attack into the bus stop chicane, but if you can manage to get alongside at any point, no matter how risky, there are positions to be gained. And with under 2.5 hours on the clock, track position is worth fighting for tonight.
Certainly is. And speaking of things being a little tight, if we take a look at the Pro Championship, especially after last round, it has suddenly gotten very narrow. 7 points between first, second, and third. And then it's only 12 points from Challenger down to Chin in fourth. Where you finally get a gap is to Steve Driscoll and those behind him, Quinn, Warling, Hill, Morton. Those guys all kind of fighting amongst each other, but could still gain enough, as they are definitely within range, and it's getting late in the season. So it's going to be fun to watch. But DJ, I believe you've got the sportsman points.
I do indeed, and you can see there Ozzie Milwane holding out that 7-point advantage over a tie for second with Justin Garrick and Joey Haynes. Behind them, only 4 points back, is Chris Sherburne, and only 7 points back of him is Brian Halleck, with Jacob Mink only 3 points back of Halleck. So very tight standings there across the board in that sportsman category.
Yeah, then we have the pro teams with Forge Racing Pro 1 up in the lead of this category with Evolve Sim Sports, 53 points back. That may seem like a lot, but that's actually not that much considering the amount of points that are on docket for today. Kinetic America's Pro 2 is even closer, only 16 points back of Evolve Sim Sports. And then we have Kinetic America's Pro 1, only 10 points back of their sister team. Dog Bear Red brings up the back a little bit further back, still only about 60 points back of Kinetic America's Pro 1 and Pro 2. So it's still very close for the pro teams, Joe.
Absolutely. Now, the sportsman team's standings, if we pull those up, currently have Forge Racing Sport 1 up ahead by an even smaller margin. High Class Racing back by about 17, and they've only got a 3-point margin between themselves and Sector 5 Sports. Now, you have to go back a little bit to get to Evolve Sim Sport Academy, and then even farther down for Howler Racing, but up at the front, I imagine that things will continue to swap around significantly in that sportsman category. What about the older guys out here on the track, the legends, DJ?
Well, in that Legends category, Kevin Hill has an 11-point advantage over Brian Barnes, with Wayne Hutchinson peering down Barnes's neck, only 6 points back. Big gap, though, back to Brian McGreevy and Jimbo Pfeiffer. So a little bit of a battle there up at the top, but things start to separate as we move down the order, Joe.
Yeah, then we have the Legends Sportsman with Maurice Gomillon, only 1 point over Robert Deloche. And then we have Robert Gamble, only 4 points back of the lead as well, with Roger Shank, only 6 points back of the lead. Then it's a tie for fifth between Robert Covey and Ernie Ludwig. That is 3 Roberts in the top 5 of the Legends Sports standings, Joe.
Must be something about that name that is helping them out in that one. But as we look at the race details, tonight's event will be 2.4 hours. To be precise, it'll be 145 minutes. They are racing the GT3 sports cars. 7 of the 8 makes that were available to be chosen are represented tonight. So glad to see such variety. It is an open setup series, this one. So drivers hopefully will have been working with their teammates to try and get those things tuned in. Now, the incident cap, that is a real talking point. This track is notorious, even if they have tried to adjust the way that the boundaries are counted, you still have to stay within those boundaries. It's 4 wheels off in a number of places where it's paved now instead of going by the middle of the car. But if they rack up those 50, there's no drive-through penalty. It is just a straight disqualification when they hit that number. Before we get to the racing, though, we want to give a mention to our charity for this round, which is the Hunger Project. Ending hunger starts with people, resilience, courage, ingenuity, creativity. People are extraordinary. With your support, communities realize their own vision of a future free from hunger and poverty. Together, we make change happen. Find out more at thp.org. Glad to see them supporting such a great cause here for this round. As you can see, we're starting in the dark this morning. It's not this evening here, so we're going to be going into the sunlight with a 5:30 a.m. virtual standard time start time for the green flag as we look at our pole sitter and fastest driver in this warm-up, Christian Challenger, who's leading the championship. And we'll see if he can keep that top position. Adam, he kind of has to rebound a little bit after he was a little out of his comfort zone at Crandon last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian, a little bit out of his comfort zone, and mentioned as much in the post-race chat over on the Majors Discord, but currently right now feeling pretty comfortable up there. He's only 1/10 up on James Walker in this practice session, but he did make some inroads for the pre-qualifying himself. He actually was able to put himself into the lead over Andrew Waring by about 4/10 for his qualifying time. So in that Porsche, you see him right there on the inside coming into Lacombe. He's definitely going to have his work cut out for him, because starting the lead does not guarantee you that you are going to be leading as you come into Lacombe on the first lap, DJ.
No, it really doesn't. That draft train that we so often see come into play over the Kemmel Straight can really come out to bite you. Also for Christian, yeah, that Porsche is a very quick car in a straight line, but it being rear-engined, it can make the rear a little bit unstable. We've seen it to come back to bite a couple of drivers in the races that we've covered here at Spa. So he's going to be careful on the run down the hill as well through this area. But one way or another, we are going to keep our eyes focused on that white number 1, as he is sure to put on a good show.
See someone heading down pit lane. Remember, this is the endurance layout of this track, so it's a very long pit lane. Any extra stops into there probably going to severely hurt your race, your finishing position. Drivers will want to avoid that where possible, but it seems like it is pretty solidly a 2-stop strategy. I can't imagine any reason for going other ways around. But I guess the question mark here, guys, is which laps do you stop on? How do you split it up?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because there are 2 different ways you could do this. You could do this where you do the short stint at the beginning and then the 2 long stints, or you can do the 2 long stints and the short stint at the end. The winning strategy over the other 2 regions has been to take the 2 long stints and do the short stint at the end. This reduces the amount of fuel you have in the car for your final stints.
I have a good feeling that those who are watching this round of the majors are probably endurance racing fans, or at least sports car racing fans. So we have a fantastic announcement to make, and that is that the MTech Series is coming back. There you can see a lot of the details here. The first race will be October 16th, but if you're interested in participating, registrations will open on September 1st, and it's a little bit different this year. You can see they've got GT3s, GT4s, in TCRs this time, as opposed to a lot of the faster cars we had last season. But it still has those full course yellows, which include live admins and protests. So this is going to be a lot like the real thing, with big teams having to work together to try and get the best result over these long, grueling races. Looking forward to the Majors Team Endurance Challenge coming back this fall. And a big thanks to them for bringing GSRC back for coverage on that, as we enjoyed that a whole heck of a lot last time through. Let's see if we get just as fun racing, even though it is a solo race here for the official Majors World Championship. So no teammate to hand over in this one, but we've seen them try this many times before, and they know how to handle it. But weather conditions, I got to wonder about that, DJ. It's going to continue to get hotter and hotter as the sun comes up. Not too terribly hot, I think. But do you foresee that affecting how the cars handle as it goes on?
Well, it's going to affect it for sure. The question is going to be is how much it does. You can see about 67 degrees on track right now, 19 degrees Celsius. Pretty stiff wind of about 10 miles an hour out of the south, and a lot of relative humidity. That'll be nice because the cars will get a little bit more downforce. The air is a little bit thicker, but as the track heats up, that means that the tires are hopefully going to get into that good window for grippiness. If it heats up too much, though, Joe, that's where I I'd get a little bit worried about taking that short stop at the end. The lighter fuel load, the car could get a little bit twitchy, and if the tires are worn down pretty well, a hotter track can definitely come out to bite you.
Looks like we're just getting ready to grid up here now. So let's go through that starting grid for today's event. Christian Challoner starting on the pole will be followed by Andrew Waring. Of course, James Walker starting behind them as Bradley Haley is in P4. Then it's Abramitis, who is a one-off here. This is a specialist potentially coming in. Qualifying fifth is no mean feat in this series, so he clearly knows what he's doing. Eric Smith starts from P6 as Driscoll is in seventh. Only driver yet to take a win in the top 5 in points this season. Josh Chin starts in 8th with Lyndon Swaby in 9th, and then Travis Warling. Adam will round out your top 10.
Kevin Hill will start off 11th position with Justin Morton, our dirt specialist, starting off 12th today in these GT3s. We got Mark Stevenson in 13th with Brian Bennett in 14th. Vincent Laherbier is going to start off in 15th on row 8 with Justin Kirby next to him. Then we got Liam Quinn on row 9 with Austin Espedy in 18th. Your top 20 rounded out by Brian Barnes and Chris Yatito. Chris.
Starting off in 21st is going to be Jeff Schmeier, followed by Rob Powers with Adam Halleck and David K. Hall behind them. Nick Kuhn will be 25th, followed by Ryan Steele, with Wayne Hutchinson and Brian McGreevy making up row 14. And to round out your top 30, it's Bruce Perry and Jason Wallet.
Kinchlow and Brown are the last two on the field, and they will not start as they are here, which is just coming through the bus stop. Remember, the pace car will duck away because that pit entry is very early, but they will start on the downhill past La Source at the old pit straight. So they have to wait a bit before Christian Challoner is able to accelerate away. 2.5 hours that these drivers will be racing. Who can be the fastest at this legendary course? Can Christian Challoner start to pull away once again as they come around that La Source hairpin and come down the hill? He's waiting for the green flag, which now waves, and we are racing for the 2.4 hours of Spa. Christian Challoner gets himself a pretty handy start, but up through Eau Rouge, you can see just how many cars are going to be vying for position here. This might not be the safest place to be here at the start of this race. So far, so good, and I think we're onto the Kemmel Straight now.
Yes, we are. Tom Abramatis actually is one of the ones who's poked out his nose in that AMG that he's trying to get down the road. He's got a little bit more company behind him in one of the BMWs as well, but it's Christian Challoner with quite a big lead. And it's side-by-side actually between Abramatis and Bradley Haley for the 4th position. They're still side-by-side as they go through Malmedy.
Haley's going to be able to come out ahead. Looks like Tom holds back Eric Smith before he can attack, as many of them are now getting single file. A few in the back are still battling for position through Rivage for the first time. The sun starting to creep over the horizon, and those headlights will not be as necessary pretty soon. But for the meantime, it is a cool and dark track. And something happening maybe in the background. Someone complaining about something.
Yeah, Justin Kirby, unfortunately, is having some connection issues. He's pulled over to the side of the road to let the rest of the field by as he tries to sort that out.
A very considerate move on his part. He will have a lot of positions to try and regain because of that, but it saves a lot of other people their race. You can see a little side-by-side battling between Chin and I believe that is Eric Smith. Now it's between Driscoll and Chin. Chin around his outside as they come out of Stavilo.
That's a gutsy move there from Chin, but he's going to make it stick, and following it through on the inside, I think that's Travis Warling. This has been a real hotbed of action ever since we started around this 7 to about 12 position.
Absolutely, and James Walker's under some pressure for Bradley Haley for the 3rd position as well, as they're trying to battle up there, trying to catch up to Christian Challoner. Bradley Haley going around the outside through the bus stop chicane. James Walker has to give him the space. Can Bradley Haley put the power down? It's going to be close to 3 wide as they come off the corner. Bradley Haley has to back out of it. Tom Abramatis trying to recover from his bad start.
It's looking around the outside as they come up to La Source. Haley covers him off. Bradley takes the inside away from him and gets a decent exit on top of things. So at least he's good for now, but the slipstream will start to pick up once they hit that Kemmel Straight once again. And at the front of it all, Christian Challoner already has broken that draft to Andrew Waring behind him. But from James Walker on back, it is still a train.
It very, very much is. We keep our eyes focused there as that battle 4P5 that we were looking at, trying to poke his nose to the inside. That's one of the Mercedes trying to go down the inside. That's going to get a little bit complicated for Eric Smith, but he has to back out of it.
Kevin Hill going up on the curve there, trying to make it work. They make front nose-to-tail contact, actually, as they go through Malmedy. And now as they head towards Brussels, it's going to be close between them. I can report Vincent Laherbier has hit the back of Kevin Hill, who's got to slow down. Kevin Hill off track now. He's fallen back to 20th.
On screen, that was Chin who managed to overtake Smith, get himself into 6th place as we've switched back, and Swaby is slow there in the 100 car, the blue kinetic machine.
Another slowdown for Swaby, unfortunately, so he's having to fall back. He's fallen back all the way to the 20th position for being in the top 10.
That's really going to hurt Linden there. We look out the back of his machine. That is Ryan Steele behind him as they make their way around down the hill coming out of Puhal. It's very, very tricky. We talked about just how easy it is to pick up an off track on here, and with these heavy cars, the momentum can carry you out onto that runoff and get that off track quite easily.
Into Stavolo once again. Looks like Swaby's got it under control now. And everybody is kind of settling in, hopefully. Eric Smith as well, after being overtaken by Josh Chin, doesn't really have a challenge from behind. Oh, but definitely takes one of those off tracks, one of the 50 that he will be allowed before he's DQ'd. Hopefully don't reach that. And Driscoll just behind him as we hop on board with Warling now, just behind Eric Smith. Starting to get a little close here. Driscoll's starting to catch up to the 90.
Yeah, you can see that in that rear view camera on the top of the bulkhead for Travis Warling as he's trying to get his way back there. Looks like we've had a little bit of trouble further back in the field, but Steve Driscoll with a great run actually on Travis Warling. Travis Warling driving the Ford GT3, one of the older cars on the iRacing circuit, but currently still in the BOP for this circuit.
Absolutely, they could choose all but I think essentially one of the GT3 level cars that were available in iRacing. Looks like Abramitis may have lost out to Bradley Haley. No, he's still behind him. So, oh, and no, Abramitis passed Bradley Haley, so got himself back into 4th. Josh Chin now threatening, as you can see the defensive move from the Comet, and it looks like he's going to be able to successfully hold him off down through Ravage.
That was a very aggressive move there from Chin. He's been on a real stomp here coming up. He's already up 2 positions from his starting position of 8th, looking very strong in that BMW, putting a lot of pressure here to Bradley Haley. As they come through Puhal, there's not really going to be a good opportunity for him to overtake until they get down into Fagnes, but watch for Chin to do it. He's been very, very opportunistic at corners around this track.
Continue to watch from the perspective of Chin as he takes it out of Fagnes up towards Stavolo now. This will take them onto one of the longest acceleration zones on the track, up towards Blanchemont and the bus stop. Ooh, he's staying pretty close. This is looking good. I think Chin might have something here. Just riding behind and coming up to Blanchemont. Yeah, if he wants it, he could maybe take a dive here, DJ.
Yeah, I think he could. A little bit of a run wide there for front for Haley. Chin's going to poke his nose to the outside. Not going to go for it here, but takes a little bit of a wider approach there into the bus stop. That should help him get a little bit of a better launch. I think Haley was a little bit compromised by Abramitis.
Background, very poor exit from Driscoll for some reason. Don't think it was a slowdown penalty, but he lost a lot of time to the cars ahead. Out of La Source once again and heading down the hill. Christian Challoner, if you haven't been watching the left-hand side of the screen, is still about 2 seconds ahead of Waring. Considering Waring is the one chasing him in the Pro Drivers Championship, he's got to start doing something to switch this around, or else he's going to lose another little bit of a gap.
And one of the things you might think about is trying to switch up that pit strategy. But that being said, with 2 other regions in the books, and both of them having the race winner having taken that the 2 long stints first, I don't think Andrew Waring's going to try anything too revolutionary with his pit strategy. But what he might be able to do is, if he could get James Walker to pass him, maybe try and save a little bit of fuel and short fuel that last stop.
We check in on Abramitis. Haley's not going to let him have it easily. He's right on his tail, but so is Josh Chin. They've got Eric Smith kind of hovering in the background in that 32, riding in 7th place. They're going to all easily erupt here. It's early stages. It's a long race. So not too surprised that we don't see that crazy of moves quite yet, but it depends on what these drivers think their pace is compared to those around them.
Yeah, some of these teams, obviously, this is a big teams series. They may be set up for a little bit longer run pace, so they may be aggressive early on, just trying to get that car into as good air as possible. As we continue to watch this battle, looked like that was a little bit of a bad run there for Chin. He's losing a little bit of time.
Looks like Abramitis should be far enough ahead unless he has a very bad run through Blanchimont, and yeah, he is solid this time, so nothing doing for Bradley Haley. He's still got time if he wants to try and make a move later and finds the opportunity. Just behind them, Eric Smith looked like he closed up a decent chunk under braking, as that Merc is handling quite well. It's known for being very compliant. Down into La Source hairpin, Chin and his BMW sandwiched between two of the Mercedes, with Haley also riding the 3-star.
Chin got a pretty decent run off of that corner. This is the best run that he's had since the opening lap, so if he can make it through Eau Rouge and Radion, he makes it through Eau Rouge just fine. Radion pretty close to a cut course penalty, but he's going to be okay. Now he's got the draft of Bradley Haley. Haley's got the draft of Abramitis up ahead. Let's see whether or not Chin decides on making a late dive here.
Looks around the outside, but as they break for the corner, he wasn't quite close enough, unfortunately. Could see him try something maybe into Ravage if he gets an exit out of Malmedy, and he does. He is going to see a big defense down to the inside from Haley, though, who nearly takes him all the way to the curb on the inside of the track and shuts the door.
Yeah, that was a very frightened defense from Bradley Haley all the way to the inside. It didn't really deter Joshua Chin. I'm a little bit confused as to why he didn't wing back to the outside, maybe try to run a little bit more of a momentum line, but it looks like Chin is just content at this point to sort of be in his competitors' heads and just sit there and wait and watch as this race continues to develop.
Chin on 2 wins so far this season, so he knows how to do good in these races, but we usually see him faring a little bit better over on the oval side. That said, we've watched him do some incredible things in road races as well, including sweep one of the seasons in the PRL at one point in open wheelers. But he falls back from Bradley Haley for the time being, so he'll have to re-rack and try again. Wonder if we could go to 10th place. Justin Morton, after hopping out of his Arca Menards car, has now hopped into a GT3 tonight with very...
Oh no! Brian Bennett's around! Behind him!
Oh, just lost it in Blanchimont. Oh, and unfortunately that Ferrari can't keep it out of the wall. Bangs it slightly. I don't think it'll be major damage, but let's see.
He just put the right rear tire in the grass on turn-in, and that ends up right there. Just that much ends up getting the car loose enough through Blanchimont that it ends up sending him around.
Sector 5 car is going to have to come back around and make sure that it all handles okay. It looks pretty good from this angle. It's the left front that banged the wall. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I think he just breezed it.
Yeah, I think he got pretty lucky there on that to escape on a spin through Blanchimont without any major damage. He's going to have some work to do, but that car currently in 19th does have some speed in it. I was keeping an eye on him earlier, Joe. He was kind of cutting his way through the field a little bit.
Keep turning the cameras over to Josh Chin in this number 93, but that's because he won't leave Bradley Haley alone. I wonder if Brad could have an easier time trying to get up on top of Tom if he wasn't having to constantly look in his mirrors and see that kinetic car there.
Absolutely, and I think that Chin is really starting to get into the head of Bradley Haley a little bit right now. You can see him, Bradley Haley, going wide there. That'll be another off-track penalty for Haley going that far into the AstroTurf because the center of the car ended up going over the red and white curbing. Josh Chin now flashing his lights at Bradley Haley up ahead of him, so definitely trying to get into the head of Haley. But if he's going to get into the head of Haley, then he's got to make a move.
Well, maybe that flashing is him trying to see if he can elicit a mistake, just distract him enough to get him to go offline, get a better run, and try and attack. So far, not working. Sure, it's not helping the patience of Bradley Haley regardless, and falls back out of Stavilo. So maybe try a different tactic there, Josh.
He'll be back on it. I'm sure the Kinetic Racing driver, as you said, a very, very competent road racer, even though he is a little bit more known for the ovals. Getting that car through Blanchimont, I bet the person he is cursing the most is Abramides ahead of him, who is giving Haley that draft, which is allowing him to keep up some good times and not necessarily allow him to be sitting duck. But that's a bad run there through bus stop for Haley.
This is looking like a good chance for Chin as he follows in his tire tracks down toward La Source. Once again, flashing the lights, just seeing if he could get some sort of mistake out of the Mercedes, and it's not going to happen in La Source as long as Josh can stay close behind, maybe about this car length and a half behind. He could get the slipstream up towards Lacombe.
Right, but that means he has to take the risk to take the dive. So here he goes through Aruja and Radion, very clean, very good here, but not that much of an advantage over Haley. But Haley is going to step out of the draft of Abramides, and so now here we go with Joshua Chin with an opportunity. He's going to look to the inside. Let's see whether Eric's going to fight this, and the answer is no.
It took a couple laps, but Josh got it done. He's into fifth. Well, he's got the spot, and there you go, returning the favor. Bradley Haley immediately on the button to flash the lights.
Yeah, indeed, and that's really allowed Eric Smith to now catch up to this battle. But let's see if Chin is able to break away a little bit as they work their way down the hill through No Name right through there. If he's not able to, he may be able to be caught a little bit. That gap up to Abramides is about 1.2 seconds, so that's going to be on the edge of effective draft range, and Josh is really going to have to hustle that car down the hill.
Haley, unfortunately, has been losing positions in this race. He's down 2 from where he started, but Chin faring pretty well, up 3 from 8th to 5th now. Eric Smith, in the meantime, just trying to size up his fellow Merc driver. Come into Stavilo, sees if he can get himself a nice draft off of there onto the long stretch. Goes quite wide in the process. Down in the mid-pack, we've certainly had plenty of fun, but there's been so much happening up front, we haven't had a chance to really catch some of these drivers. And right now, Jeff Schmeier has Brian Bennett, who, remember, is a little bit down because of his mistake, trying to make up some stuff. Already side by side through Blanchimont as he almost gets into the side of Schmeier, but he's going to pull out of it. And there goes Bennett up into the 18th spot. Schmeier looks to try and take it back, but breaks way too early for an attack into the bus stop. So Bennett moved the 71 into P18. Next on his list will be Barnes.
Yeah, Schmeier wasn't too happy about that particular move, but at the same time, if Brian Bennett's that desperate to get by, I think Schmeier's just going to let him go. He's got Halleck and Yatito behind him, both about equidistant as well, so he needs to stay on the back of Brian Bennett up ahead in order to maintain his track position, and track position right now, as we know, is everything.
Certainly looks like it. It's not quite been the passing fest that I thought it might be. The draft trains really just kind of either holding station or everybody going back and forth around. There does seem to be a few moves that people are trying but can't fully pull off.
We just saw at the bottom of our screen there, Kevin Hill trying to make a move on Austin Espedy for the 14th position. Espedy and Liam Quinn, actually teammates at Kinetic, have been swapping positions over the last couple laps. They can't figure out who's faster, DJ.
Can't figure out who's faster. There may be a little bit of fuel saving strategy going into that as well. Maybe trying to stretch out a lap or two with these two Kinetic drivers. Their other teammate, obviously Joshua Chin, up in 5th right now. He is the standard bearer.
And let's not forget that Kevin Hill in there is part of the Evolve team that are definitely in that fight with Kinetic for the championship in the team's fight. So he's going to want to try and make some overtakes to get those back. He's got another Kinetic behind him. It is just Kinetic City right here in the middle of this field.
Yeah, that is Lyndon Swaby, who's trying to catch up behind these guys in the number 100 BMW, trying to make this work. Looks like Adam Halleck possibly has had some connection issues himself, so he has returned to the track. But yeah, I think Kevin Hill's got to try and get past Austin and Liam as quickly as possible, because Lyndon is coming with the head of steam on another recovery drive due to a slowdown on the opening lap.
That's what it takes to be a champion here in the majors. You gotta be mistake-free as much as possible, because we've already seen how little ones here at the start of this race can be costly. Mistakes like that from the number 24, who went way wide into the corner. Espedy wants to swap back around once again, but he'll have to face the defensive Quinn. And he backs out of it, which opens the door for Hill. He sees the chance to try and sneak through, and he's going to get to the inside of La Source, but he's going to have to drag race him down to Eau Rouge.
Not the best place to overtake necessarily, as that draft's going to come in. They're going to be almost side by side going up Eau Rouge. That is not the way to do that, boys. That's a little bit of a fallback there from Hill. I think that's a good call. Now he's going to be able to take full advantage of the draft behind Espedy. Does he have the power in that Lamborghini? He's coming on strong. Pokes his nose to the inside. Not too much of a defense there from Austin Espedy.
Doesn't cover him off, but tries to outbrake him into the corner. It's not meant to be. There goes the Lambo, now up into 14th place. Quinn certainly loved that, as it gave him some breathing room. Can we see that green and white machine start to chase down the 24 and leave his teammates in the dust? It's also bringing in Brian Barnes in 17th. The number 4 with his traditional blue and yellow livery is starting to gain on this quartet.
Joe, I've been quite frankly amazed at how clean the racing has been up to this point. Obviously, knock on wood here, but these drivers have been keeping it very clean, keeping it very respectful amongst each other. They've looked at that clock and they've gone, 2 hours? I don't think it's time to do anything crazy as of yet. So everyone's just trying to hang on here and be there at the end, and I absolutely think that's the strategy. One of the most important things about this race is to just keep it clean, keep your car clean, keep yourself out of the incident points. So you definitely want all of those things to be a factor here.
Certainly. And as we continue to watch Brian cycle around up 2 spots from where he began this race, continuing to close in. It's now down to about 0.8 of a second. So I wonder if he's got a little more pace than what we realized. It was flattered by them battling, but it's closed down now with them being in a straight line.
Yeah, it really has, Joe. That Lamborghini doing a good job to keep up behind those 2 Kinetic drivers. And behind him, you can see him exiting. He is going to have his mirrors full of the Ferrari of Brian Bennett also on that recovery drive. So this may not be as easily straightforward as Barnes would like it to be, but he is certainly catching up to those 2 Kinetic BMWs.
That could be valuable points in that team's championship. So they've got to start to pick it up, or else they could be attacked by that Lamborghini as we ride on board with the Legends driver. And just see how much elevation changes there is in that one corner of Eau Rouge and Radeon, just climbing over the hill. And then it continues on upwards all the way until you get to Lacombe and Malmedy, where it finally tops out at the highest place here in the Ardennes Forest, or at least on this track, and then back down the hill.
Oh, and Mark Stevenson has had a spin coming through Ravage.
Oh, he's going to be in front of these guys.
Oh, he's gonna get going just in time. This is a little bit frustrating for Kevin Hill, I have to imagine. Somehow he managed to get by Liam Quinn when we weren't looking, and checked him up slightly. So Quinn now on the back of the green and white Lambo of Kevin Hill, down through Puhan. It's starting to settle out. Wonder if we could get a replay, because I think we're good now. What happened to Stevenson?
And we're going to take a look at this replay. And Joe, I think everyone's hitting a wall right now. I'm seeing a lot of cars loose right now. So here we go, taking a look at this. This is Mark Stevenson as he comes into Brussels. He's just going to overdo it on the turn in and get himself crossed up here. Just takes too much speed into the corner, and the rear end comes around. A little bit too much rear brake bias there.
That was Leherbier in the kinetic car that was just checking up to make sure he didn't run into him. Great heads up there for the 27. That'll put him into 11th place. Ooh, and again, championship implications there, as that is one of our Forge drivers that had that spin. They're leading the points, and they just lost some.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well, and he's going to have to be careful, Mark Stevenson is, because Kevin Hill and that fellow Lamborghini is all over his exhausts right now, really putting some good pressure. Fell back a little bit during the bus stop. We're going to poke his nose to the inside on La Source. I think that's a little bit more of a mental move as he comes back to the racing line to take the apex, and now here comes the big drag race down and up the hill. Let's see what they've got.
This is forming quite a train. Look at this. Stevenson obviously has just joined it because of his spin, but Hill, Quinn, Espedy, Swaby, and Barnes are all very close together. This is a fantastic run from Hill. He's gaining time very quickly up the Kemmel straight. I just don't think it's long enough of a straight as somebody's poking the nose out, and their BMW in the background, and then coming back into the racing line. Hill not able to pass.
That was Espedy getting passed by Swaby, actually, just due to the nature of how the Kemmel curve works. Swaby actually ended up being in line with Liam Quinn up ahead of him, and he was able to get past Austin Espedy. But I think it's worth mentioning, Joe, that as we hit the end of this lap, this will be the point where those who want to do their short stint during their first stint, being this stint, this would be the time when they would come into the pits for that first stint. So keep your eyes on that, see whether or not we have anyone who decides to take their short stint now, and that would be anyone who feels like they're being held up by the drivers ahead of them.
I'm looking at my track map right now, and it does look like I think those at the tail end of the field, if they wanted to pull an alternate strategy, could get through there without suffering the front of the field coming back around to them. Also, Brian Bennett, who is still on his recovery, well, he's up to 18th, and he's got a buffet of cars in front of him now.
Yeah, he does indeed. I've been keeping an eye on Brian, driving a very smooth race here in that all-around good Ferrari. One of the few drivers opting for it here today. It's just him, Powers, and Leherbier. Now, he is going to be tucking up behind Brian Barnes, but we keep our eyes focused here. This is Hill trying to make another run at Stevenson following Stevenson's accident. Looks like Stevenson's able to handle Blanchimont a little bit better. Hill's not going to be able to get the run he wants.
It's stacking up now. It's not just that drivers are kind of hovering around. I'm seeing an accordion effect down into the corners. So these drivers are being held up somewhat. Now that more starts behind Quinn, less so behind Stevenson specifically. Ooh, in two very different lines. Stevenson goes wide as it's a better exit for Hill. Does he dare try and force the issue into Eau Rouge? No, he's no Fernando Alonso for now.
Yeah, he's a little bit too close, actually. It means he had to lift coming through there. So this means he will probably be able to get Mark here. But fortunately for him, the Kinetic guys have backed off a little bit. And actually, I don't think he's going to be able to get Mark Stevenson. I think the back off was a little bit too aggressive here. He's going to look to the inside. And is he going to try and outbrake Stevenson? No. He was a little too close as they came through La Source and had to back off going up Eau Rouge and lost the momentum. He couldn't make the pass.
But
Bennett got his first of the group as Brian Barnes was overtaken there. So the 71 now up into 17.
Yeah, and that was the move that Hill was looking to try to do there, Joe. He just was able to get the timing right coming out of La Source. A simple draft move down to the inside. Keeping our eyes focused, though, on that battle with Hill and Stevenson. Hill looks very good through this second sector of the track. It looks like he loses a little bit of time on the straight, so I wonder if he is a little bit more trimmed down. He's got a little bit more downforce dialed into the car.
Could be, and we've already seen the cases here at Spa where that can come back and bite you, where you really want the car to be as quick as possible in a straight line. Even if you suffer a little bit in the corners, if you can be fast down the straights, it's hard to hold you back, and it's also hard to pass you. As they come down to Blanchimont, Kevin Hill is, just way too far back. Stevenson maybe has finally got his feet back under him.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on all these drivers to see whether any of them decide to take a pit stop this time around, take that short stint strategy as they come up to the pit lane. 157 to go in this race. This would definitely get them to the end on 2 more stops. It looks like they're all going to keep going. They're totally fine with this draft train.
I can't imagine many of the front runners or DJ are going to be trying to pull an alternate strategy, especially since it looks like it's not super easy to try and pass today.
No, it's really not. Track position is going to be king, so I think you're right. Any of these leaders do not want to risk giving up that very valuable track position in order to try something a little bit crazy. The other problem...
we had an incident for Ryan Steele. He is unfortunately gone off in Blanchimont and I think hit the wall. One of our McLarens has found itself with some big damage. Yeah, here you're going to see it. This is out of Stavelo. He's already being hunted down. And I think that is, or no, he's trying to hunt down Nick Kuhn, rather, I should say, in front of him. This is where the accident, I think, takes place.
Oh, he gets loose going into the corner, Joe. So just a little bit of a stab at brakes while he was turning in, and that unsettles the McLaren, and that's some pretty heavy damage.
Well, the good news is they do have a spare car here in the majors. So you mentioned we're within the pit window. He's been forced into that strategy now as he's already on the lane. Up to Abramitis in the 22. Has not been able to shake Josh Chin. Bradley Haley still back there as well, but Eric Smith starting to drop off somewhat. Could become a 3-car fight now for this 4th place as they come to complete lap 13.
Yeah, Josh Chin here has been doing a pretty good job to reel in Abramitis. Remember, when he overtook Haley at first, that gap was up at around 1.2, 1.3 seconds. And just lap by lap, Chin has been reeling him in. Doing a very, very good job to keep things nice and clean and not let too much go away. He had a bit of a scruffy lap last time out and let Abramitis gain about 0.3 on him. But for the most part, Chin has just been absolutely consistent here.
That's what you need, especially in these longer races. I can tell you that Steele is back out after his pit stop, so it looks like he did take that spare car to get going once again. But Chin riding equidistant between Tom as well as Brad. So no passes this time coming up into Lacombe, just has to hold station. The beautiful golden sunrise here in Belgium is starting to wash over the cars.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm keeping my eye on is the average lap times. Now, last lap for Christian Challenger was a 2:16.8, his best lap if he did not get an off track, which he did. So unfortunately, that lap time is invalidated. But compared to the guys in this particular group, these guys are doing 2:18.5s. So that is 2 seconds slower than our leader Christian Challenger. So Christian really putting on the gas right now. Andrew Waring, who's in second, a 2:17.2. So another 0.6 slower than Christian Challenger.
Well, Challenger's probably going to have a slower lap on this one because he's been absolutely plagued with the traffic of Jason Wallet, who finally does get over for him. He had taken a pit stop, or no, he started from pit lane, I think, actually, it looks like.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so that's why Wallet is so far back, and now our second car that has been lapped along with Steele.
Yeah, Wallet choosing to start from pit lane. That's what set him off there. But Challenger does have a good long gap up ahead of him until he gets to anybody else. So he'll be able to put in some good times here, try to grow that gap out to Andrew Waring a little bit like we've seen him do many other times.
Andrew Waring would love the side of that because he's already dropped back to about 3.5 seconds. That time by, it was a 17.4 for Andrew with a Christian running a 17.7. So 0.3 slower, nothing dire, but it gives some hope to the 3.36 as Travis Warling pits. Ooh, interesting.
All right, so our first taker on an alternate strategy here, 152, about 153, 1 hour 53 minutes left when he came into the pit lane. So definitely a lot of time now. The pit lane really is very long for these drivers. It's about 55 seconds. So you do lose a lot of time if you decide to take that pit stop. But look at how close it is between these drivers once again. This is Stevenson trying to hold off Hill, and this is that train of kinetic cars, and Brian Bennett got really close to passing Espedy through Blanchimont last time, but I don't think he's going to have the momentum to do so as they go up Eau Rouge and Raidillon. But is Stevenson going to get past this time by Hill? Looks like Hill's got a good run.
Hill's got a great run, and Stevenson knows it. He's going to cover the inside, wheel to wheel as they come up to Lacombe. Hard braking into the corner. First apex will be in favor of Stevenson, and he chops off the second one before Hill can take advantage of that inside line. Not quite this time, but that's the closest I think we've seen him get.
It is indeed, and that is music to the ears of Lyndon Swaby, who's riding right behind them. Swaby able to be brought back up into that battle, having a little bit of a gap back to his teammates right now. Good job for Hill staying close here through the windy bits, going through No Name right there. This triplet up front, about equidistant from one another. We'll have to see if maybe Hill can get that wound up again. Try again here through bus stop.
So we're just about a half an hour into this thing now. And they're showing some cracks in some places, but others are looking quite strong. I have to imagine most of them set these things up for the long run, as there's no full course yellows in this race today. It is all about keeping the pace consistent along with being fast. And this was a good exit as well for Swaby, but I don't know if he's close enough to that Lambo this time. They're going to hit Blanchimont here, and as long as Hill is within reason, he is. Nope, I don't think that Lyndon is able to attack down into the bus stop chicane. So they'll get ready to start yet another lap. It's down to 6 cars now because they are dropping Brian Barnes, who for a brief moment was catching them. Brian Barnes in the background actually spinning the tires up coming off that final chicane, costing himself more time.
Now, it's an interesting thing to think about. Stevenson. Now, there are 2 different philosophies that these drivers are taking right now, and they both are under the same heading. Both of them are under the fact that it's a long race and track position matters. One is that Mark Stevenson, just like you said, his defense could be justified under the fact that track position matters, so he can't let Kevin Hill get by so easily. But the other defense could be that Mark Stevenson's defense was a little bit too aggressive here. Let's see whether or not he makes another one as Kevin Hill has another run at the same spot.
Side by side once again, Stevenson to the inside, and this time it was an earlier back out from Kevin Hill. Now, there's been a big problem for Josh Chin. He was in the gravel out of Malmedy just seconds ago. Wonder if we could get a replay of the 93. So we'll need to back up maybe 20 more seconds here. This happened out of Lacombe and Malmedy. Yeah, here we go.
And that's him right up behind Abramitis there. Runs it through, goes into Malmedy. Ooh, I think he started to get on the power a little bit when he was on the curbing. That just sent him around, backing up to give plenty of room. Bradley Haley able to get by. That's going to drop Chin all the way down to 8th place.
After he was doing very well today, it's a little disappointing to see. Yeah, I think that outside curb just upset him. Great avoidance there from the Comet, who just squeaks by, gets himself a 5th place with that.
Yeah, Bradley Haley very thankful that Josh Chin locked his brakes there, because if he would have kept those tires rolling, it would have drifted him back out into the racing line, and Haley would have been collected in an incident there.
That separates them, so robs us of a bit of a battle up at the front, especially since Abramitis is now a good 2 seconds ahead of Haley, since he had to slow up some for that. Stevenson, though, was not able to catch Josh before he got going. In fact, Josh is still a good chunk up the road from them. That tells you what kind of fast pace those leaders are running in comparison to these guys, which are certainly no slouches. And Kevin Hill, wow, he is way far to the inside. I don't think that's going to shake Stevenson this time, and indeed it does not.
Yeah, Marks just sticks to his normal line. You see the two triplets there as they start to break away. Let's see here. This is pretty close for Hill. He may have to back off a little bit coming up through Eau Rouge. It's not exactly getting that timing right, but 1, 2, 3, they are very, very close in this leading trio. Ooh, I think this may be Swaby's chance to make a move here.
Yeah, I was going to say Pegleg definitely got it the best of those three, and he's going to look to the inside of the Evolve car, but he's boxed in. That's Stevenson in front of him. He can't brake too late. He doesn't want to get into his side, but the long way around to the second apex, and he's got the job done. Not fully. Switching back underneath him, Kevin Hill tries to poke his nose down into Rivage. Brakes too early to make that happen. Behind them, side-by-side action. Bennett outside of Espedy. Espedy runs him a little bit wide and says no.
Yeah, that was contact actually between Espedy and Bennett, front right to left rear. So Brian Bennett's not going to be too happy about that. He's going to look to the inside as they head towards Puan, and he's going to dive it down the inside. Espedy breaks early and gives it to him.
Oh, I thought that was going to end in tears when I saw Bennett poking his nose. I could see two cars just screaming towards the tires, but great credit to both of them. Bennett now up into 15th. Espedy settles for P16.
And Joe, that was all really precipitated by a swap between Espedy and Quinn on the Kemmel Straight. They wanted to change times over to try to see if they could do anything, and that's what allowed for Bennett to get going in there. But now we've got to watch this, because this is Kevin Hill all over the back of Lyndon Swaby diving into Blanchimont. This could be a run here for the Evolve driver.
That fighting between Lyndon and Kevin has dropped them a full 1.2 seconds behind Mark Stevenson. And a successful defense for Swaby this time. Oh, but he's awful deep down into the bus stop chicane. He gets away with it. Even still, Hill was not able to get back by him. And now they look up ahead and see the white Lamborghini of Mark Stevenson that much farther up the road.
You could tell that the fuel's starting to burn off of these cars. Christian Challenger had the fastest lap last lap with a 2:16.8. Andrew Waring and James Walker both had personal bests that last lap as well in second and third. So the fuel's starting to burn off of these things as it looks like Justin Kirby has come into the pits.
Okay, and we are on lap 18. So we're getting some interesting strategies here in the pro split of the Americas region. Didn't expect this to vary this much. I thought most everyone would basically go for the same one. Granted, it's only been a small handful who have pitted up to this point, but even those were sort of shocking. And looks like Kirby just getting to his pit stall. Now, Challenger is up to...
Kevin Hill's around!
No, it's Stevenson.
No, Mark Stevenson and Kevin Hill, both of them.
Oh, big checkup there. You can see them prone on the road. Stevenson gets it turned around. Kevin Hill gets it going as well. What caused this one?
This is Mark Stevenson getting loose through Brussels, and then Kevin Hill gets into the gravel just a little bit, puts too much power down, and ends up getting collected.
Yeah, Hill actually made some contact with Liam Quinn, it appears. Ooh, and there was some contact between Espedy and Bennett as well. They saw it right there as they smacked into each other. So that caused everybody in that group some issues. We'll have to keep an eye out to see if anybody's lost some speed with that.
Yeah, we will indeed. You heard Espedy over the radio just apologizing there to Bennett. That was an error on nobody's fault there. Just a little bit of a checkup and not knowing where to go. Keeping our eyes focused on Mark Stevenson, though. He's dropped all the way to 20th. Kevin Hill doing a little bit better, only back in 18th.
And here's Bennett now back up to P13. So what has happened to him has happened to others as they lose positions, and he gets them right back. Next on his list is Liam Quinn. Stevenson, for that Forge team, unfortunately started 13th and is now down in 20th. So he's bleeding valuable points for them. Where are our other Forge drivers? I'm actually kind of curious.
Another interesting thing, Joe, is that Brian Barnes has been brought right back into this after falling off the back of that group by about 2 seconds. All this chaos has brought Brian Barnes back onto the back of Austin Espedy, so it'll be interesting to see whether Barnes can keep up with Espedy and get him up. We're going to jump on board right now with Barnes as he's trying to chase down Espedy in that big BMW ahead of him.
I actually think that Forge Motorsports Lamborghini is our highest placed Forge car. No, I take that back. Justin Morton appears to be the highest placed Forge machine in 9th place right now. We ride with Brian Barnes down in P15. He's got some stuff to make up here to get to Austin Espedy. Nothing that's impossible, though.
No, nothing at all, and we've seen Barnes being able to do some good things earlier in this season, especially with Espedy a little bit checked up here behind Brian Bennett and Liam Quinn. I think there's certainly some room for Brian Barnes to be able to get himself forward. And one of those Forge drivers you were mentioning, Joe, that is right behind them, Christian Tito in the Lamborghini, starting to maybe make some inroads here, so they're going to have to be careful, make sure that Tito's not able to completely close in.
Also, we've been seeing the sun. Whoa! That was Quinn. That was Quinn.
What
off
happened?
The road in Fanyes. He kept it out of the tire barrier.
He took it too deep into the corner and then tried to save it here. He missed his braking point and then ends up trying to hit the brakes and turn at the same time. And the Porsche is notorious for having that rear-ended car swap around on you. You'll see it right here.
Yeah, dives in right there, and there you see it. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Adam. But great job from Liam Quinn, keeping the accelerator down, keeping those tires rolling, and preventing himself from getting any rear end damage on that car. He's able to keep going, albeit down positions.
Whew, yeah, down to P17, unfortunately. Oh, and he's coming in. Okay. Yeah, we've seen a couple spins now, especially drivers just doing it on their own. So wonder if the sun coming up is starting to affect the handling in a way that these old tires don't like.
Well, the temperature hasn't increased at all. It's still 68 degrees Fahrenheit on track, which it was to start with. So I don't think the temperature is changing that much for these drivers. So that's very interesting that they're starting to have this much problem. Now, it could be the fuel lightening the back of the car, Joe. That's another thing that definitely plays a factor for them as well. As we're watching Brian Bennett under heavy pressure from Austin Espedy, who's caught up to him in that draft up the Camel Straight into Lacombe. As they head towards Albany, Brian Bennett almost getting that thing swapped over. Got very loose off of the left-hander there. So heading down to Brussels, Brian has fallen back 3 seconds from Lyndon Swaby.
We're getting relatively close to that first stint being over. 26 laps, remember, that we're expecting drivers to go for the first stint if they're trying to run it dry, as Bennett exploring the outer boundaries of Speaker's Corner there for a second, is able to return to the track safely, thankfully. That didn't allow Espedy a chance to try and get by. The other thing I wonder about is if there's a few places where the sun is starting to get into the eyes of the drivers.
Could be a very real possibility, Joe, and that sun hitting the driver's eyes, just making them lose their braking zones. In terms of the effect on the track surface itself, track temperature hasn't changed. It's still about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind's still continuing to be about 9 or 10 miles an hour out of the south. So there's not a lot of change on the track surface, but I think you may be right about maybe just losing braking zones with some sun glare.
Yeah, we really get a good idea of it when we ride on these onboards in a few places where it's starting to peak ahead above the tree line, down into the bus stop chicane. No pit stop for either Bennett or Espedy this time through. Highest pitter is still Travis Warling currently. And I think Quinn is back out on the track, but he's sitting in 30th behind both Kirby and Warling, who have taken their first stops.
So we definitely are approaching that pit lane window for these drivers, about 8 minutes away from being an hour, well, about 18 minutes away from being an hour into this race for these drivers for sure. As we're watching right now on board with Austin Espedy as he's trying to close up to the back of Brian Bennett. Brian doing just enough to stay ahead of Espedy here, and Espedy realizing it. You can see him just actually, he's taking it quite deep into the corner. I expect him, when he realizes that he's not going to be able to make that pass, to back off a little bit and save a little bit of fuel. But it seems like Osman wants to be on the attack.
Now, you can see a McLaren in front of him. That's actually Ryan Steele. So that's a lapped car. That's not for position amongst these two. But he could provide a pick if Espedy plays his cards right. We've already seen Challenger get held up a little bit, but I love that. Love that sportsmanship there from Ryan Steele. He saw the battle happening, and he decided it was better to get out of their way.
Yeah, it doesn't really cost either driver any time there, so they'll be able to continue on with this battle pretty easily.
Oh, we're already hearing a little bit of hurt feelings about the flashing lights, as Justin Kirby didn't like Josh Chin trying to do that move on him. So I know they're not supposed to talk over the radio, but I wonder if that'll become a discussion amongst the stewards and the drivers after this race. Oh, we've had a problem, and it's Liam Quinn again. Liam Quinn right after his pit stop, and this time he did find the wall. It's in the bus stop chicane. Oh, no.
And this is yet another story of a Porsche clipping the left rear on the grass here. This time it was into the bus stop chicane. Here he goes through Blanchimont. You're going to see him approach the left side of the track to get a good line through the chicane. And then right before he hits his braking point, gets that left rear in the grass. Then he clips the grass and then goes straight over the center of the chicane into the wall.
Yeah, it's hard to slow it down when it's flying through the air, all four wheels off the ground. Just frustration for Liam Quinn. We've seen this happen in real life as well as in the Euro race earlier, that it's pretty dangerous if you lose control coming up to that curb.
Yeah, it very much is, Joe, and lucky he did not collect anybody. Looks like he's going to continue on there. I think a good amount of speed was taken off while he was, midair, but probably some damage to that front splitter for sure. Not sure if he's going to be able to come in and get a free repair on that, or if he's going to try to hold this out for his next pit stop.
He's still out there running. He could have tried to duck in if he really wanted to, but the car is off pace.
I mean, that's an understatement, Joe. He's down by about 20 miles per hour, even on the short shoots. So he's going to have to come in and get that spare car for himself. So unfortunately for him, this is going to put him, I mean, he's already towards the back, but this is just going to add insult to injury, I think.
Looks like David Hall just had an off, and I think he lost a position. Nick Kuhn able to easily get by. This is a very frequent sight here at Spa. Watch David Hall here in the red Mercedes try to hit the brakes, and unfortunately hit them too late, and away he goes.
Yeah, just couldn't get that car wound up under him. Very easy to do when you're coming up over the Kemmel Straight. You just misjudge how much speed you're getting. Probably able to escape that with relatively minimal floor damage. He'll continue on here in 20th.
Okay, we are on lap 23 for our leaders. 3 more to go. We should probably start to see them coming in. It's all the way up to 6.5 seconds between Christian Challenger and Andrew Warren. But since effectively the start of this race, 1, 2, and 3 on the track are the same 1, 2, and 3 in the pro drivers points.
And that's no surprise either, with Christian Challenger being very comfortable with this particular car class combo. He's shown his skill around here multiple times over the course of the major seasons. I mean, he is the winningest majors driver, at least championship-wise, in the series. So no surprise to see him this far out front. He's got Lynn Kinchlow about 4 seconds ahead of him that he's going to be lapping. He's got clear track all the rest of the way up until his pit stop. So he's got that in about 10 minutes time, and he looks pretty comfortable. He can take it pretty easy and not push that car too hard, not get it outside of its envelope. But this is Christian Challenger we're talking about. The man's going to go 100% the whole time.
No doubt about that. Yeah, to give our viewers an idea of just how dominant, how almost Hamilton-esque Christian has been, he's got 11 more wins than the nearest driver, which is nearly double that driver's total. Blake Reynolds second on that sheet with 15 wins, who isn't as active, sadly, in the majors anymore. But he's got good reason. He's over competing in the pro level up with the eNASCAR series.
Yeah, Joe, I'd say that's a pretty good reason to do it. But Christian here, as we said, going to be spared passing that lapped car as they dive on into the pits. So the first of what we consider to be these later stoppers, that is Lynn Kinchlow going for the long stop here on his first stint.
So far, been smooth sailing for the number one machine. Still a lot of racing left with an hour and a half to go on the clock. So getting close actually to the first hour mark coming up, which is about the distance these GT3 cars can do on a full stint, on a full tank. This is Waring there in the 336, riding a BMW. Bimmer looks to be a pretty quick car at this track. That one and the Mercedes seem to be one of the most common amongst the top 10.
James Walker actually just set his personal best time of the race in third position, trying to catch up to Andrew Waring, but he's down by about 10 seconds. By about 3.5 seconds over Walker, 10 seconds over Challoner. So there we see Walker coming through Malmedy right now, getting a little bit off track there. It looks like Brian Barnes is taken to the pit lane. He's going to take his first pit stop now. This is a little early to maximize that fuel strategy that we were talking about, but depending on what you've been going through as far as on-track performance and possibly if you're having trouble passing people, it makes sense to come a little early.
So, Brian Barnes is in. Looks like the number 4 going to take his pit stop, so he'll be cycled farther down the order. This is on lap 24 for him. Love the beautiful scenery that we get with these transition periods in the iRacing service as the sun goes up or goes down. So as we continue on, we're going to check in once again on that battle for 12th. Bennett and Espedy. He's been chasing Bennett for a while and has not given up.
Yeah, he certainly isn't, doing a good job to just try to fill his rear view mirrors with that BMW as much as possible. A little bit of dab of the brakes there in the middle of things from Brian Bennett, just maybe a little bit unsettled there mid-corner, but doing a good job to stay ahead at the best that he can. I think this may be one of those situations, Adam, that you were talking about where maybe Espedy decides to dive in a little bit differently here, just see if that's a way he can get by.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one of those things that he's taking a look at. And it's interesting to note that Brian Bennett was the fastest among all of that big pack of drivers that we saw earlier on. And he's now struggling to stay ahead of Austin Espedy. So I think just all this work on the setup and the changing track conditions, I mean, I know that it's not getting warmer, but the track is rubbering up more, which is going to make the cars oversteer a little bit more, especially on the brakes here into La Source. You start seeing that black line appearing on the track. That is rubber laid down from them braking and accelerating out of that corner. So that's definitely something that's going to be affecting the setup and drive of these cars, and if you're not prepared for it, it can really catch you out. But Brian Bennett with a much better run this particular time up Eau Rouge and Radion, and Austin Espedy a little bit unsettled on his run up the circuit. So even though Espedy will still close under the draft, he'll be about 0.5 behind once they hit the cone.
Track surface in general been a big talking point among the iRacing community lately after yesterday's announcement on the status of rain. A little bit of a sneak peek from the devs. And this is an appropriate track to bring that one up because of the reputation of the weather here. Now, unfortunately, we can't have rain now here today in this race, but if it's released by the time we hold it next year, I would not be shocked if we get a wet 2.4 hours at Spa.
I wouldn't either, Joe, and it's going to throw a real wrench into the proceedings, rest assured. It was a welcome announcement to hear that. It has been talked about for many, many years, but What we have been hearing is that it sounds like by the end of the year, there may be rain, and that can throw a whole new level into endurance races like this.
Well,
Yeah.
even Adam, you were talking about the way that the track was rubbering in. And they mentioned, much like real life, they're going to make sure if there's a lot of rubber in the track, you don't want to race on it in the wet.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to change a lot of things. Oh, speaking of a lot of things changing, Andrew Waring and James Walker have come to the pits. That will definitely change stuff as P2 and P3 into pits for the first time. Christian Challoner still out on track.
Christian must have a light right foot today, because he was one of the ones that was telling us he was expecting to be in at about the 26 lap mark, so he must have saved a bit. Looks like we've also got LaHerbier pitting, and someone in front of him. That's Brian Barnes in for a second time. Why is Brian Barnes in again?
I wonder, unfortunately, Joe, if maybe he picked up a pit lane speeding penalty. I'd have to go back and check up the replay, but that's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Swaby also pits. I see Chris Yatito coming in the 888 Lamborghini.
So Waring and Walker in their boxes. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Walker decides to take less fuel on this particular pit stop to try and jump Waring on track. Let's see what happens. Waring has been there a little bit longer. Now, 24 seconds was Travis Warling's pit stop. That's the quickest pit stop we've seen today. And Justin Kirby at 57 seconds is the longest pit stop of the normal runners. So it looks like they're going to aim more for that 48 to 57 second window here.
And it looks like Waring is taking tires, as is Walker. So both drivers opting for new tires there. That'll slow them down in the pit stop cycle.
51, 52 for Waring, continuing to tick upwards.
57.5 for Waring.
There it is. He is on his way.
Walker took a lot more fuel.
Oh, yeah. Walker's over a minute and still going. Minute 5 already. So this will cost him track position. But is Walker now going long in comparison?
Well, we will have to see as our leader, Christian Challoner, now coming into pit lane on exactly lap 26.
I think we're going to see everybody in. Here's Abramitis, Haley, Smith, Driscoll. Yep, this is the end of the pit window.
Kevin Hill has spun.
Oh, and he's hit the wall. He has definitely hit the wall. This was, I believe, through Fanyes in
Yes.
the 52. It looks like he's got it going.
So here he comes. He's all on his lonesome here going through Lafreniere. So this is actually down through Pouin now. He's going to approach Lafreniere, and here he comes up to the corner.
It's the second part for him, unlike what we saw for Quinn.
So nice and gentle through there, and then it's the change of direction. He puts the brakes on as the car is changing weight there, and that ends up spinning him around, and he can't get it slowed up by the time it hits the wall. He gets going again and only loses one position, but he's coming into the pits now, and unfortunately, that was probably his in lap, and that one's going to hurt because he's got Mark Stevenson now right up his rear bumper. But we go back to Christian Challoner, who's been in the box for about 20 seconds, and if he's going to take tires like everyone else, he's going to be over a minute in the box. So that's going to be interesting. There goes David Hall. David Hall a lap down from Christian Challoner, regaining that lap by exiting the pit lane.
Travis Warling, our highest pitter right now, is just coming into the bus stop chicane in that number 94 GT. And Christian Challoner still waiting for his pit stop to finish. He's up to 45 seconds on the clock, definitely taking tires. So is Haley behind him, as you saw him go up on the jacks. Warling is coming down the hill now, and Challoner is out of his box. Travis was on a short one, so he is going to have a lot of speed, but he's going to be on older tires, and he's not going to be ahead of Challoner, or is he?
Oh yeah, he will.
Oh,
He'll
yeah.
pass him by the time they get up to Lacombe, and this is just due to the speed difference coming off of the Kemmel Straight and up over Rouge and Radion versus the drivers who take the pits. So Travis Warling up to the temporary lead. Now granted, he's 12 laps into his stint, having only taken 24 seconds in the box. So he took his short stint this last time around, but he's got the track position now. Let's see how quickly Christian Challenger decides to dispatch of him.
I'm sure I can hear a very casual Christian Challenger saying, did he not take tires that time, or something to that effect? And Christian probably easily able to overtake him. Ooh, looks very much stronger coming off the corner, but decides not to risk it into Puhan. He had a pretty handy gap coming in on that first pit stop, so I kind of don't blame him. He doesn't have to rush this.
No, he doesn't, and he still has about a 5.6 second advantage over Andrew Waring behind him. So he can very much sort of take his time here and figure out when he wants to get the pass done and not have to force something where he could run the risk of getting an off track or running wide.
Got to think that we'll see it maybe coming out of Stavilo. He'll get a nice little tow here on the back of that, I believe, lone Ford that is running here today. No, I take that back. Kinchlow's in a Ford out there. This was not originally a GT3 car. It was raced in GT2 class. It did race in GT3, converted by a team or two way back when, but it was requested as an option in the GT3 fields, and has since been here on iRacing, converted in the sim off of the corner. Still nothing from Challenger.
Yeah, and he's losing time to Waring behind. He's lost about a second at this point, being trapped behind Travis Warling. Now, another thing to note, remember how we said James Walker's pit stop was long? Well, it's definitely come back to bite him. He's trapped behind Bradley Haley down in the 6th position, and he can't get by. Now, Christian Challenger, look at him. He's staying out of the draft of Warling before they approach Eau Rouge here, and now as they head up to Radion and through Kemmel, he's going to have a great run as they hit the Kemmel straight.
Staying right in the tire tracks, holding off to the right-hand side. Travis going to make him work for it. Christian sees it, pops out, goes to the racing line as he hits the brakes, and he's clear before the first apex. Still gives him space to play it safe, and Christian Challenger is once again your leader in this race.
Looked like a second there that Warling was going to try to fight back on him a little bit, but not quite able to get it done. A pretty cut and dry pass there for Christian Challenger. So he's now going to be able to move ahead, and he lost about a full second to Andrew Waring. That gap now down to about 4.5. So he's going to have to work to try to make that back up if he wants to be sitting comfortable again.
Remember Kevin Hill having that incident earlier? Well, his woes are not over. After the pit stops, Justin Morton has rocked up to the back of him in his BMW. He's sizing him up as we ride on board. Looks like he's not going to be able to outbrake him into Lacombe quite this time. Let's watch the VR user. Oh, have a big moment. Didn't even flinch, though.
That was a great moment from Justin. He had to put in some opposite lock there to stay off the back of Kevin Hill, who ended up catching the inside curbing just a little bit and upsetting that Lambo. The Lambo is such a fantastic car to drive. But the moment you upset that car, it wants to eat you alive. And so it's very, very scary if the car breaks off of traction. So Justin Morton in that big BMW, able to slow it down, gets an opposite lock in that VR rig he's got going for himself. A little bit of, looks like black lighting on him as well. So he's got some great lighting for himself right now, but fantastic driving from Morton to stay off the back of Kevin Hill. He's going to want to get by because he's got Tom Abramitis up ahead of him about 15 seconds. That's a long way to make up.
I wonder if Justin's going to come back to us with with some black lighting next time, as we had a little bit of a glitch that caused those visual issues. Now we got it fixed, it appears. Morton's still stalking behind the 52. And he's only back by about 0.2 of a second. Car length and a half.
And just trying to pull up to the back of that Lamborghini the best that he can. Looked like he had a little bit of a run before Blanchimont. You see a slight adjustment on the car. Not able to get it pulled in. But I do have to say that Justin's fastest lap is significantly faster than Kevin. So he's got more speed in that BMW. It's just a matter of getting this done just right.
The variety of cars that Justin has been racing, and he's going to send it up the inside into La Source. Not even a defensive move from Kevin Hill. He saw the writing on the wall. Justin even gives him a thank you over the radio. But going from a dirt street stock to a K&N car, a late model that he raced at Sobo last night, to now a GT3 BMW here in the middle of Belgium. This is a multi-talented driver for sure.
Absolutely. You know what? It's really interesting because there are not a lot of drivers in the majors paddock that everybody seems to like. And I feel like Justin Morton is one of those drivers that nobody has a problem with and everyone races respectfully because he races them respectfully. And so seeing him have such success this year with the multi-class racing, I mean, and the the multiple types of racing that we do here at the Major Series, it's just awesome to see him have this success and also get the respect of everyone else.
Yeah, Justin actually doing very well in the championship, sitting within the top 10. He's 9th right now, and 2 top 5s to his name. No wins quite yet. I'm sure the way that he's been hovering around the front of the field, there could be one forthcoming in the future. As we hop above them to Walker and Haley. Now Walker, we think, has a slightly heavier car with some more fuel on board than Bradley Haley. That can't be helping his speed and his attempts to try and overtake the 428.
No, it really can't, and I've been watching this. Haley doing a good job of keeping that independent 428 machine relatively wide on the track. Walker trying to find some way this way or that, but just nothing doing here yet. It's kind of the story that we've seen over the course of this whole race.
You're so used to this track providing plenty of chances to try and overtake, and today, I don't know what they did with the setups of these cars, but it's certainly not looked easy. As they come through Eau Rouge and Radillon, it's like Walker might be close enough. Oh, I think he's got a good run here. He could have an opportunity. He's been waiting for it, been looking for the chance. Haley doesn't defend, but Walker decides to lift before they get to the braking zone.
And what iRacing did the last time around that they did these BOP adjustments is they ended up using weight to affect the performance of the vehicles. And that actually is what definitely affects the performance of the vehicles when it comes to being able to pass, because if the car's too heavy, then the brakes aren't going to work as well, and neither is the throttle. You're not going to get as much speed. So when you come off the corner, and also that's going to affect the draft ability of the vehicles, because when the horsepower isn't working as effectively on your car, the draft isn't going to mean as much because you're going to be running less downforce to try and make up for the speed that you lose by having too much weight. So adding weight to these GT3s has definitely affected whether or not they're able to pass.
Walker just staying behind Haley. Closest we've seen him get in a bit here since those pit stops. I like seeing Brad coming on over here to the majors. We saw him for so many years in the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge. He's showing here that it's not just that group of guys that he is quick with. He has also got speed amongst a global set of competition. And he's used to driving in these GT3s, no doubt. But pulling away now, Walker behind by about 0.8 of a second. That should give us a chance to maybe step away, take a little bit of a breather while the cars continue on. The racing will not stop. We still have the second half of this event left to go. Stick around. We have more to come here in the Majors 2.4 of Spa. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We are watching the Majors 2.4 hours of Spa. So far, with just about an hour and 10 minutes left to go, Christian Challenger has been leading the majority of the laps. In fact, I think he has officially led all of the laps so far, as Travis Warling chases him and is 5 seconds behind. Challenger has since having to overtake, he hasn't led every lap now that I say that. Well, Travis Warling was ahead of him briefly after he took a short stop. Now Andrew Waring is also sitting in third in his BMW. Eric Smith is in fourth, with Bradley Haley rounding out your top 5. Biggest story really is the man behind Bradley Haley, which is closing in on him right now, and that is James Walker, who has been working on this for some time and had multiple goes at it during the break this time. Thank you for the timing here, James. He is going to take the spot and get into 5th.
You know, Walker breathing a big sigh of relief. Finally, he's thinking, I got past Walker. Now I can go catch Eric Smith up ahead. But when Walker got trapped behind Smith, they were about 2 seconds. Trapped behind Haley. They're about 2 seconds behind Smith. Now Smith is 7 seconds off the road. Remember, James Walker was the one who had that long pit stop, so he's trapped out of sequence. He should be up behind Andrew Waring, but now he's got 13 seconds between himself and Waring in order to close that gap. That's how much time he lost with that pit stop. That was only 10 seconds, so he's lost 3 seconds on track since exiting the pit lane.
I'm looking at the lap times though, and Eric Smith is consistently slower than Walker, even as James was stuck behind Bradley Haley. So I think he's still been steadily gaining. It's just more of a question, could he have been gaining more on that 32 machine? He's got to make up, as you said, about 6.5 seconds now. So it's still going to be, looks like maybe another 6 laps, 7 or 8 potentially, before he gets to the back of him. But he's certainly not impossibly far away to try and make an overtake eventually.
No, Joe, he's certainly not. He's keeping that gap relatively down here. That Mercedes showing its versatility all the way around.
Yep, the highest placed Mercedes now, Eric Smith. Walker's not our highest BMW, though, which he's running in. That's Andrew Waring who holds that torch. And he's got to watch out. He struggled so hard trying to pass Haley, and Haley's been holding on. Will Bradley have a good shot here, maybe, and better straight line speed down the Kimmel Straight? Let's see.
It's a little bit too far back, I think, to make a move into the home from this position. Now, James Walker had a good run through Radion, which is usually the defining factor of any sort of move. But I don't think Bradley, he's not going to be able to make it by the time they get to the home.
Nope, certainly not. So Haley gained a little bit, but not enough. And I think that job might be done. Now, remember Josh Chin having some issues? Well, he's caught up to Steve Driscoll. So we should see some fun between two of our rival teams here of Kinetic and Evolve.
We should. This is one of those battles, very fierce across the board for everyone here. Chin trying to close down. This is obviously very important for the team's championship. Chin, the standard bearer right now of Kinetic.
Which is hard to believe. Usually they have so many drivers that they've sometimes swept the podium in some cases. So many talented drivers in this series. Josh Chin, who we ride on board with, looking over his dash, hovering at about half a second behind Steve Driscoll. Chin on 2 victories this season, whereas Driscoll is without one at the moment.
It's very interesting to see how in these road rounds, it definitely ends up being an individual effort. Now we've got an oval round next round at Darlington, which is going to be very different. We're going to see packs of team cars all tucked in together, but look at this, Chin with a decent run here.
He's been getting close, but it seems as though he's experiencing what a lot of others have, which is that it's tough to try and get the overtake done. Coming out of the bus stop chicane, he's within about a car length, but that green and white car starts to pull away and keep himself at a distance that he can't attack into the source. Now's when he needs that good exit coming down the hill towards Eau Rouge. Let's see if he gets it.
See if he does indeed. Looks like he's falling back ever so slightly. Now, that may be a little bit of what we talked about already, just trying to get the timing right as they come up the hill.
I think Warling just got overtaken by Andrew Waring. And that was up at the top, but this is close as well as they come up to the Lacombe chicane. And Shin is going to poke his nose to the outside. Let's see if he can get the job done. Driscoll tried to defend, but it just wasn't meant to be. A little bit of a touch, nose to tail. They get away with it. Chin now back up to 7th.
A good move from Chin, very staunch around the outside, forcing Driscoll to take that inside line. And also, I mean, these two have raced each other so many times over the years. Knowing that Driscoll was going to make the corner, knowing that he was going to be able to keep it on that inside line, that's just respect between the two of them.
I wonder if we could get a replay on Waring's pass, because he came from a long way behind, and it was into Lacombe just like we saw, but it was certainly not a slipstream pass like we witnessed there with Chin. The 336 gets himself 2nd place with that aggressive move. Let's see. Yeah, I think we'll need to back up just about 30 seconds more here.
Yeah, here we go.
This,
you're right, Joe. This was a very, very long, deep move for Waring to make this pass. Now, granted, he's right in the slipstream of Warling here, but you're going to see Warling's brakes activate, and watch this happen. A little bit of a signal there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that may have been coordinated then. I think that could have been teammates helping each other out. So that explains it then. Just tapping those brake lights early, letting him know he can get by, and Warling settles into 3rd behind Andrew. Glad we looked at that though, because that certainly
Brian Bennett's around.
Oh no!
And we've seen this multiple times through Fungies, and here we go again. Similar incident.
Yeah, this is a lot like what Quinn experienced.
Just carrying too much speed there into the corner, it looks like, and that sends him out into a slide. I think we're going to jump to it on board here to get a better angle of this loss.
Yeah, it starts to break mid-corner, for sure.
Yeah, he does it. He hits the brakes, turns in, and downshifts all at the same time. And all those things combined just overwhelm the differential in the back of the car, and he can't get and it just ends up unsettling the back end, and he can't get it under control at that point.
So, unfortunately, a couple positions lost, but at least he didn't hit the wall, and he can keep going. But it's not been the greatest of days for Brian Bennett in that Sector 5 Ferrari. Why don't we take a glance at how many positions have been gained to see some of our hard chargers here. Now, some of it has been thrown out of whack by a few alternate pit strategies, but it looks like there's not too many guys that have really gained a whole bunch. The biggest looks to be potentially Espedy down there with a +5.
Trent Brown, also in the 24th position, has gained 8 positions from his starting spot last on the grid.
Oh, we've had a problem, guys. That is Adam Halleck around Mark Stevenson, got into the back of him going into La Source. Stevenson jumping on the radio and immediately apologizing. Just think he missed the braking zone in that Lamborghini.
This has not been a good day for Mark Stevenson. Got to be kicking himself a little bit. There's the punt, unfortunately. And that's actually 2 Forged teammates that have compromised one another with that one.
Yeah, that's not going to go down well in the paddock afterward between those two guys. Stevenson trying to recover himself from that spin we saw earlier on. So, unfortunately for him, getting into the back of his teammate Adam Halleck, and yeah, it's just rough days for him today.
Good news is, despite quite a few incidents, we haven't seen that many serious ones, and we've only had 1 DNF. Liam Quinn, out of our 32 starters, has called it a day. We'll look a little bit farther up here, back to Bradley Haley. who sticks with Walker after he gets that pass done. So Bradley's keeping James honest, certainly showing some great pace here, but we're expecting James to go much longer into his stint and have a much shorter stop in this next one to hopefully bring him back up into the podium positions.
Yeah, so Eric Smith up ahead of these guys. Just went past Wayne Hutchison, which is the orange car. Oh, Mark Stevenson's gone around again.
Another one. This one was, well, in Fanye's again.
That Lamborghini is just not agreeing with Fanye's at all.
Does a good job of locking the wheels up here. Yeah, other cars coming through, you just make sure that it stays put so he can get a clear spot, get it backed up and get going, but he's now down to 25th after starting 13th.
Yeah, it's a very rough day for Mark Stevenson, and yeah, it's just, we've seen a lot of spinning Lamborghinis. It just seems like the Lambo not exactly tuned to this track in the way that a lot would like it. The highest runner right now is Kevin Hill in 11th in that Lambo.
Watch him continue to come around. Not been the greatest couple of races recently for poor Mark Stevenson. Remember, he was part of the craziness at the end of New Hampshire earlier in the year. Oh, and has Kevin Hill had a problem? Yes, Kevin Hill is slowed down, and this one was in Pujan. Once again, a Lamborghini. What is happening here with these Italian cars?
Well, they're heavy and they're low to the ground, and they're really challenging to drive at the best of times. Now, it's a very comfortable car, but they've got this thing set up for much different track conditions than this. And as Kevin goes through, you can see just it gets oversteering on him. I think it has to do with that traction build, the tire buildup on the track, Joe. Like, it's just becoming such a challenge for these drivers to get power down.
We haven't gone up in track temperature, though. It's still showing at 68 Fahrenheit right now.
Right, but I'm talking about the rubber that's laid down on the track, the black marks that we're seeing all the way around the racing line at this point. That loosens the track up a little bit, and that could be what's affecting these guys.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just getting snappy, that there's more grip than they're expecting, and it's not behaving as they figured it would. Still have a whole hour to go, and there's clearly a few that have got a long road ahead of them. Certainly plenty of mistakes that they have to overcome at this point. Hill wound up in 12th position, and that's Austin Espedy that's currently behind him in the BMW. Didn't hit anything, so I don't think Hill should have any damage from that, but I'm sure his confidence was rattled.
Most certainly, and especially on a long run like this, you look at the clock and there's still an hour to go. You get a little bit of that defeated feeling sometimes, and that can do more to rattle you and to drive up your lap times than almost any other thing can, Joe. So definitely Kevin Hill still has his work cut out for him here, especially with Espedy breathing down his neck.
And Joe, I think I figured out why Kevin Hill's having some more problems. He has not taken tires yet. He took fuel only on his last stop, and now he's got Austin Espedy for company once again. Now remember, Austin and Kevin were glued nose to tail during much of the first stint. The difference being that Kevin Hill's pit stop was 30 seconds slow. Oh my gosh, Kevin just cannot make it through Huon, and Austin's going to take over here as they head toward Fanye's.
Ooh, too wide through there. It can be a little problematic sometimes as he backs out of it into the back and forth of Fanye's, maybe trying to set him up for a little bit later. Within an hour to go, I would think that if Hill felt the need, he could come in for a pit stop right now. Honestly, I guess if I was him, I'd be crying for that, saying, please give me some tires.
I have to think that'd be the strategy call for him. The only thing that I can think that he may be trying to do is just, sort of put a tourniquet on the bleeding, maybe hold Espedy behind him for a little bit and then dive in a few laps time. But I think that pit stop is the right call. You see him just understeering off the track, that Lamborghini not able to get any sort of grip.
It's a snap understeer. It's oversteer. Sorry, it's understeer that leads to oversteer. It's when you're trying to turn that car so much and then it snaps on you. That's what he's dealing with right now in that Lamborghini, and it's a real struggle for him. And I'll see whether or not Espedy gets him as they head up Camel Straight this time. It's going to take a real setup from Espedy to get this done, considering the Lamborghini is so quick in a straight line.
I think the oval guys like to call that tight loose. So as they come down towards the Eau Rouge set of corners up to Radillon, can he handle it this time? Car looks to be within the bounds, and it looks decently fast. Espedy, though, gets a decent exit. And as he comes up the Camel Straight, he's starting to gain. I don't think he's got enough straightaway. He'll show his nose regardless, but that kinetic car will not be able to make the pass this time.
Yeah, just a little bit too far back there, Adam. You mentioned it, that top speed of the Lamborghini definitely coming into play to be able to save Hill a little bit there from the clutches of Espedy. But if I'm Austin, I'm doing the exact right things that I want to do here, just filling that Lamborghini's rear mirrors and trying to force a mistake out of a very, very twitchy car at this point.
And the thing is that Kevin Hill's making a lot of mistakes, but Austin Espedy just can't capitalize on it. The power of the GT3 just is not there for him. He's going to look down the inside this time of Pouin, and I mean, Kevin Hill couldn't turn in even when it was single file, so he has to let Espedy go. Ryan Steele, our first pit road taker, he was our first pit taker last stint as well, so he's into the pits for regularly scheduled service now from 22nd.
Yep, I think Ryan Steele was forced into this one. We take a look now. Ooh, this is getting interesting. Eric Smith has been caught by James Walker, and Bradley Haley as well is following in. So 3 cars fighting for what is 4th place currently, but we've got very different strategies on the pit stops. Eric Smith only 41 seconds in there. James Walker a minute 8, and Bradley Haley 57 seconds in his pit stall. So I'm not sure if that's all different levels of fuel or different calls on tires, but whatever the case, this should shake out somewhat interestingly.
That'll be fuel only for Eric Smith and tires for Walker and possibly Haley, who short fueled it.
You read my mind there, Adam. That's what I was about to say. Eric Smith did not take tires. That's why his pace is falling off here. He is about a full second slower per lap than the chasing Walker and Haley. So they are now all up the back of that Mercedes, and it is go time here for James Walker.
Walker's been chasing him down for some time, and the 97 comes to breaking Fanny's within almost a car length of that Mercedes. I think he'll have a good shot into the bus stop as long as he plays his cards right here. Needs to focus on corner exit out of Stavolo. Will he bring along the likes of Haley if he makes the attempt?
Gonna be close here, very wide for both Walker and Smith. Walker's definitely got this set up. They can't get too close before they get to Blanchimont. He's got to back off a little bit and take a long, wide exit to Blanchimont in order to set this up. He's going to follow Walker. He's going to follow Smith through. Smith goes a little bit wide. Unfortunately, I don't think Walker's close enough. He's not. He's going to have to stay behind as they go through once again. So this gives more of an opportunity to Bradley Haley to catch up to the back of these guys. They got Brian McGreevy in the Ford up ahead of them, and Travis Warling has come into the pits from 3rd.
And I recall that Travis was one of our early stoppers as well, and a very short one on the first stop. So I expect the 90 to have to pay the piper here this time, as James Walker is all over the rear bumper of Eric Smith. They're going by the lapped car of Brian McGreevy, who thankfully was able to get out of the way before Eau Rouge. Another bite of the apple for the 32. Let's see.
Well, here he's going to come, but just not able to get that closing speed, it looks like, is Walker. You can see the car just starting to stall out. Very good on the brakes is Walker, but just not able to close. Maybe he'll have a little bit of a look coming into Malmedy or into Brussels, but that draft just not proving as effective as we thought. Oh, there's the look, but he's going to pull back into line.
I didn't feel confident about it for sure. Down out of Ravage, though, he's hanging onto the tailpipe of that number 32. Car looks a little loose coming through Speaker's corner. Manages it well. Eric Smith has a mirror full of the red and black number 97. Does he dare into Fanyies, maybe?
Just remember, James Walker was really close behind Andrew. Oh, this is close. Almost running into the back of Smith as Walker, but Andrew Waring was only about, 5 or 6 seconds ahead of Walker coming into the pits last time by. So that's about a 10-second gap between them as far as their box times are concerned. But it's about 13 to 14 seconds on track and dropping as Eric Smith is holding up Walker. So this is why track position is so important.
Okay, here we go now. Much closer this time, but he's got to stand up to the dirty air, and it doesn't look like he can. He drops about a car length back, and Walker's not within range, doesn't even show his nose down into the bus stop chicane.
No, he doesn't. Almost looked like all drivers were fainting there, trying to see if they could get anybody to bite to go into the pits. Looks like he's a little bit closer. I don't think he's going to have quite the run into La Source, but that BMW is going to be hoping to get a better line here. Everybody keeps it nice and even. He's very, very close. I think too close, maybe. He may have to lift a little bit coming down the hill to Eau Rouge.
Almost pushing him through La Source hairpin there. And Eric Smith can feel him breathing down his neck at this point. Up and across the hill one more time. What is he gonna have? He should have a pretty good run, I would think. He's got the slipstream starting to close bit by bit down to 0.2 of a second. Smith is not covering him off. Walker finally shows his nose, looks to outbrake him, gets a little bit of an overlap, but only barely, and it's not good enough.
Here comes Haley with an opportunity trying to make this work. Walker's going to try and do the over-under, but look at this. Smith stuffs him. Walker's going to go to the inside anyway and try and outbrake him as they head into Brussels. It's going to be deep on the brace for both of them. And look at this. Walker able to hold it on the inside and able to sneak just by. Smith has to fall in line.
It's actually an impressive bit of defense there from the 32 to hold it as long as he did. Was Haley taking notes? Well, he's eager, that's for sure. He's ready to use those notes, and he's going to chuck it up into Pouhon. And Bradley Haley, will get into fourth.
Nice opportunistic move there from Haley. That was Smith getting a little bit wide on the exit of Speaker's Corner. And so he really just recognized that, saw the dirt kick up, and was able to make that move into Pouhon. It's the second time today we've seen a driver make a move into that corner, and neither time it's ended in tears. So kudos to the Major Series.
Okay, we are still waiting on a lot of cars to take their second stop. We're expecting those who go long to go to lap 52. We're on 42 right now. Others could be stopping at 44 if they wanted to go early, which is coming up very, very quickly here. Down to the braking, and Bradley Haley not able to attack this time, but man, big credit to this 428. Even though Walker was not with him before, he has managed to keep the pace well enough that he's not letting James breathe easily.
Yeah, the only driver that would come in on lap 44 would be Justin Kirby, who, remember, had that incident coming into the final chicane and then ended up taking an off-schedule pit stop. So he's off sequence from everybody, sitting down in 15th position. Bradley Haley, definitely close enough to make a move if he can get a good run off of Radion, and he does. Let's see whether or not Haley puts a threat to Walker here.
Picking up speed, already 160 miles an hour. Now up to 161, 162. He gathers him up, but he can't make the overtake. Walker can continue to retain that podium position, but he still needs to make his last stop as he goes way wide coming off of Malmedy.
Very lucky he didn't lose it there. No aggressive attacks now going into Brussels. Everybody going to keep it in line as they make their way to No Name. Haley just continuing to apply as much pressure as he can. Looks like both drivers running a little bit wide there on the exit. Haley not close enough to do another opportunistic move going down through Pouhon. So he's just going to have to hold back here and wait a minute.
So Eric Smith has tires to take still in 5th position on his final stop, his second and final stop. Bradley Haley has to pay the piper in the tune of 5 to 10 seconds for some extra fuel that he left out in order to get track position on his first stop, so he's still got work to do. James Walker should just be able to put gas in and go, so he'll be fairly quick along with Christian Challoner. So both of them should be fairly quick. Actually, Christian's got about 5 seconds to pay himself. Justin Kirby just came into the pits to serve his second and final pit stop after having his incident. So quite a bit of different strategies here towards the front of the field. The rest of the field, on the other hand, more or less the same strategy from about, oh, look at this, Andrew Waring into the pits. This is early.
Yeah, that's very surprising.
And that's Mark
Mullen.
Stevenson having spun on the exit of the chicane. So
Poor Mark. This is about the third or fourth that we've seen from him. I'm trying to remember, I've lost count. So the 53, at least it looks like he didn't hit anything. You know, I said something to this effect very early in the race that Waring's got to do something different. If he does exactly what Christian does, he's not going to beat him. He's clearly been outpaced. So I wonder if this is his ploy to at least roll the dice.
I mean, coming into the pits, he had a good enough gap over James Walker that I think taking an alternate pit strategy like this is certainly worth it. We'll have to see if he decides to take tires on this stop. Maybe that's the way he gets by. I would think it would just be a simple splash and dash to get him out to the finish, but he's pulling into the box now, so we'll have to see.
Just hits it right. No overshooting, so that's good for him as we continue to watch this battle for what is now second place. Walker and Haley promoted by the pit stop of Waring into Ravage, long 80-degree right-hander, downhill and off camber, and then it's through No Name, sometimes referred to as Jackie X. I was way wide there.
yeah, James Walker extremely wide there, very dangerously wide. If you put the power down while you're on that AstroTurf, that can be dangerous. Andrew Waring, 32 seconds in the box, so fuel only for Waring. He's coming out with a lot of work to do. He's got 11, 12 cars up ahead of him that he's going to have to pass. It's going to be 13 by the time Brian Bennett goes by. But all of them have yet to pit. So let's see whether or not he can make up all of that time and get back up to second with the pit cycle, or whether he gets held up by traffic up ahead and gives the advantage to James Walker, who's under pressure for Bradley Haley.
Means that Andrew Waring now takes over the highest spot of those who have pitted twice in this race. That did belong to Travis Warling for some time. He's still down in 18th, barely onto the lead lap. Watching Haley seems to have fallen back off of Walker by a tenth or two. Gonna have to regather himself and give this another go. Nope, he's not gonna have to. He's gonna pit.
All right, so there we see somebody locked in another battle, taking a little bit of an alternate strategy down this interminably long pit lane. Goes Bradley Haley. He will more than likely just do a splash and dash as well.
Got a bit of a fight brewing between David Hall and Trent Brown, and these two have actually been locked in a fight for some time. They're a lap down from our leader on the same pit strategy, so they're not going to get to complete all the laps as it sits right now. Breaking into Lacombe, that is Brown that you see in the orange Lamborghini. David Hall rocking the red and blue in his Mercedes. Ahead of them, that's Wallet, who is a lap down from them. So this is not for position as they approach the yellow Mercedes.
Absolutely, but this could definitely play as an advantage or a pick for Trent Brown if he thinks that he can get a good opportunity on Wallet. Wallet has not been letting people by necessarily at the best places on the track, so here we come up to Pouan. Let's see what happens with Hall and Wallet here.
Approaching very, very quickly. He's got to make a decisive move potentially, or else he'll open the door for Trent Brown. Not going to move over this time. Wallet's not in a battle with anybody. He's still got 30 seconds up to Bruce Perry, who's the next in line, as he switches back underneath. Last time we watched Jason give away a spot, or to a lapped car, that was there, but he decided not to do it there either, and this is definitely backing Hall into Brown.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Wallet not really getting out of the way there through any of those sweeping corners. Now, onto the grass there. That cannot feel good. He's going to have to go around through Blanchimont. Wallet not really giving a whole lot of room here.
What is going on here?
Side by side through Blanchimont. Thankfully, they both get through. I suspect Hall is going to be absolutely steaming inside that car, and Brown finally gets by as Wallet goes behind them. There's most likely going to be some discussions between drivers after this race as Challoner pits.
Christian Challoner into the lane, the ever-long pit lane, but Trent Brown, with this opportunity on David Hall, he cannot throw it away. He's got to use everything he can to get a good exit here. He's fading away, and he's not dropping into the draft of Hall. I think Hall's too far away to make a move now.
Yeah, I think he is too, Adam, just not really close enough. I think that move through Blanchimont actually ended up hurting Hall more, or hurts Brown than it did Hall, as Brown really had to take an alternate line, and Hall was able to hold it pretty easily.
So this will be one of the first times that Christian Challoner has not led this race, and he's falling back into the midst of the pack. This will be very interesting. Now remember that it was Andrew Waring who took the pit stop before Christian Challoner. Andrew Waring on his outlap still. We'll see whether or not he puts in a better time here, but Christian Challoner in his box for his final pit stop. Andrew Waring was 32 seconds in the lane. It's 20 seconds and counting for Christian Challoner.
Yeah, this will be the first flyer for Waring to give us an idea of how things sit as we continue to watch this battle for 20th, I guess 19th actually, 18th rather, and this time by a 2:17.9 for Waring.
Well, Christian Challoner's already out of his box. 29.4 seconds. That's what an extra couple of laps gets you when it comes to making that final fuel stop.
Easily out ahead of Andrew Waring, who can't even see him. This is going to be a huge gap once our timing and scoring catches up to the pair of them. So it might show Christian Challoner in 6th, but he's the highest to have taken his final stop of the race, and he is sitting pretty. Looks like we have a gap of about 15 to 16 seconds between them.
Oh, I'm looking at 28 seconds, Joe. 25 to 28 seconds. It's going to be quite a bit here, but look at this. Hall still under pressure from Brown.
Yeah, Brown not exactly going away easily here, but Hall doing a good job to keep him off. Looks like a couple more guys diving into the pits behind them as we speak, but we'll have to see if he can get this run a little bit better onto the binders. There was Trent Brown. Maybe this is the setup he needed.
No traffic to hurt them now. Rob Powers is up the way, but by quite a distance. They hit Eau Rouge, and we have just about crept towards 7:30 a.m. virtual standard time. The fans are just stretching and waking up in the stands. David Hall, yeah, he's way too ahead of Trent Brown on this one, so that Lambo won't be able to attack this time into Lacombe.
Yeah, it's very important to get a good exit off of La Source, and even though Trent Brown was very good onto the binders, he carried too much speed through the corner and ended up spinning the rear tires up, so unfortunately lost a lot of time heading up to Eau Rouge. But David Hall looking very weak on the throttle coming out of Malmedy. This is where Trent gains his time.
Definitely looks a lot stronger through the twisty bits, but it's hard to pass through those. And he's practically riding the bumper of that Mercedes down into Poulan, shows his nose. Yeah, I didn't think he was seriously going to try that, but it did shake Hall off the racing line, dips the wheels off into the pavement, and Brown closer than ever now. Will Hall defend? No, he leaves the door open, but Brown also doesn't try.
Yeah, Brown looking a little content here to just try to get into David Hall's head, and he's doing a very good job of it. It's that mental game that we always talk about here on GSRC that he is playing very, very well. Drops back, though, it has to be said, as they come through Stavila. Looks like he's just losing a little bit on that fast one and runs very, very wide on the exit.
So Chin, after taking his stop, comes out behind Haley, and I think that's a lapped car going by. He will be ahead of Steve Driscoll, who's also taken his 2 stops. We're getting a picture now of what's going to be happening here.
Yeah, and it looks so. Remember, it's about a minute 30 to 2 minutes in the lane, depending on what your pit cycle is going to be. And for pretty much all the drivers except for Eric Smith, we're looking at that minute 30 in the lane for these drivers. And Christian Challoner is well within a minute 30 of James Walker, our current leader. So once everyone takes those pit stops, which everyone ahead of Christian still has yet to do, Christian will inherit the lead from that position.
Sits in 5th with a few seconds up to Justin Morton. But Justin... Oh,
David Hall, I think, might have cut Radion. He's still going full head of steam, but that was really, really close to a cut course penalty for David Hall in the 17th position.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's serving it unless he's trying to be sneaky here and hold up his rival in the corners. Let's take a glance at it. See
This is about
what's
as close as you can get, Joe, to cutting the corner at Radion.
Yeah, we got it coming up here. Yeah, he was. Remember, it's. I believe it is 4 wheels off. Let me double check the rules to see on that corner. Yeah, the edge of the red and white curbing there is what is considered the end of it. So he still had 2 wheels on the curbing, so it did count as inbounds, and he just got away with it.
Yeah, just absolutely threading the needle, but I think that shows you just how hard David Hall is having to push here to stay ahead of Trent Brown. That attack from that very bright Lamborghini just becoming absolutely ferocious.
This has been a good battle, though, here in the mid-pack. I'm glad we're able to give them some love. This has been fantastic from both of them to climb forward. Hall up from 24th, Brown up from 32nd. Still not able to make the move right here. Trent Brown, that would be up 12 positions, 14 positions from where he began this race.
Absolutely, and that would be an impressive run for Trent for sure. Now he's got to get a good exit off of the source. A late brake is totally fine as long as you late apex it as well, because if you clip this red and white curves, you see how loose he gets coming off of the corner. That loses you all of your momentum going onto the straightaway. And then when you hit Eau Rouge and Radion, you're not close enough and you're not taking enough speed, you're not taking enough benefit from that draft up the Kemmel Straight in order to make the pass.
Still haven't seen many pitters in the last couple laps, so I think we've now hit the point where if you have yet to pit, you are going as far as possible. And lap 52 is about 4 laps away, I'm seeing, for most of the drivers. Still tantalizingly close for poor Trent Brown. They can't quite catch that number 10 machine.
Yeah, that Lamborghini just suffering from the problems that we have seen all of the Lambos suffering from out here. That sort of snap oversteer that comes from it with a little bit of lack of grip, just not able to get it down, but he is hustling that thing the best that he can.
In 13th place, Yatito suddenly has Travis Warling in the Ford GT, starting to close up on his rear wing. And is that a lapped car? Yeah, that's Bruce Perry in front of them, not racing for position. We've seen a lot of picks today with those lap traffic as they look a little bit on either side. Yeah, Bruce is just going to pull off, give a little bit of a lift. Chris is grateful over the radio. And Waring is not going to get the opportunity that he was hoping for.
Yeah, Travis Warling doing a good job. Tucked in behind Chris Yatito in that. Oh, man. Goes a little bit deep on the brakes there in the Ford. That's going to lose him about a quarter of a second to half of a second there on Yatito. It ends up being about half a second. Now, they've got Jason Wallet up ahead. Now, Jason Wallet has been the car that has been the center of most of those picks of the lap cars that Joe was just talking about. So we'll see how this ends up affecting their battle.
They're going to be riding their way up through Eau Rouge and Radion once again. I don't think they're going to be able to catch him on this straight, although they do seem to be gaining some time. A much better run from Warling, I have to say. That Ford is flying. He's got a couple miles an hour over Chris Yatito. Is it enough to try and make the pass? The answer is no.
Yeah, not able to get it done there, but he is certainly closer behind. And now as they come through the twisty bits of the circuit with Wallet ahead of them, that could be the opportunity that Warling needs to be able to get this move done on the 888 driver.
They're getting very close to the back of that yellow Mercedes. And this is through one of the most technical portions of the track here. In fact, I think he might be held up a little bit unless he can get to the inside. Yutito tries to. He does get the overlap, going wide and giving them space to the inside. Slows both of them up, and Warling sees it. Warling is going to be able to get through, but he's still got to try and lap Wallet.
And Wallet defending with all his life now, going around the outside of Lafanya. Now remember, Wallet is a lap down from these guys, so he's going to hold up Yutito once again on the inside of the corner this time around. Well, that definitely changed the complexion of that battle.
Oh, that was very costly for Chris in that 888 car. James Walker, by the way, just finished his pit stop. Holy cow, it was short. 20.6 seconds, and he's rolling and on his way. Christian Challenger's already passed. Waring is just coming up now. This is going to be close.
And it's not going to be as close as he wants it to be. Waring, the person he's been battling with ever since taking that first pit stop, has just steamed by. Now he's going to be within a second of him, so this is an opportunity for Walker. Now remember, Waring's been on track for about 6 laps on this stint. Walker just coming out of the pits, but that being said, both of them on used tires on this stint, and Walker short fueling the car to make sure that he can be in contention with Waring for the end of this race. They are both behind Christian Challenger, the highest cars in the race, who have taken 2 pit stops. So this is the battle for second and third effectively between these two guys.
I think we should clarify something, because we keep bringing it up with some of the lap traffic. And Andrew, you're sort of the encyclopedia on the majors rule set. Jason is not breaking any rules as far as I can tell. I think it's more just he's not really making any friends out there.
Oh, absolutely. There's not a blue flag rule in the Majors series, but that being said, the Majors series drivers are like elephants. They have memories that never end. And you definitely, as we were talking about with a couple of the other drivers about not making enemies, you definitely want to make sure that you're not making enemies on track, because that can come back to bite you, especially considering we're going to Darlington next week in the Gen 6 cars. You don't want to be on someone's bad side going into turn 1 at Darlington. Oh, Trent Brown is making a move on David Hall for the 17th position. I think he's got the move done finally.
Into Ravage of all places. Yes, that orange Lamborghini is through. Let's take a look at how this developed. So this is into what looks like Malmedy. Yeah, he just gets a better run. Hall sees the writing on the wall, and Brown says, "This is my position now, thank you very much." He's through.
Yeah, I think Hall just completely missed that apex on Malmedy, and that's what really set that up. So persistence paying off there for Trent Brown, moved him up to 17th place.
Yeah, heading over in old school cup cars, I can't help but think something didn't mean to wreck him, something rattle his cage.
Yeah, that sounds about right there, Joe. I think that's what we may be seeing next week at Darlington, next time out rather at Darlington.
And looks like Vincent Herbier, our next taker, and the number 27. He's going to take his second stop. We're still waiting on Eric Smith, Abramitis, and Morton in our top 3 positions to take pit stops. I see Brian Bennett still needs to come in for his last bit of fuel. So is Jeff Schmeier.
And Joe, I would expect Justin Morton to come in this time by. He's currently tucked in behind 4 lapped cars up ahead of him that are running about 2 seconds a lap to 3 seconds a lap slower than him. So I'd expect Justin Morton to take this opportunity. He's 24 laps into the stint, so obviously anyone can make it to the end from here, but this will be plenty of fuel left to the end of the race for Morton. And he's not going to want to get caught up behind these kinetic drivers up ahead of him.
Also on screen, we saw Hall and Brown, our 2 battling cars, pit at the same time. We're riding on board with Justin. Let's see if the Forge driver elects to pit this time. No, No, not following your advice. I kind of thought the same thing as you. This is a good opportunity for him to try and duck away, make sure that he doesn't lose time on track trying to overtake slower cars.
Well, Tom Abramitis decided to take the pit lane. He was in the middle of a large group of slower cars as well. So this will be interesting to see whether or not, how much more of a gap Abramitis is able to get on Morton. He was about 6 seconds ahead coming into the pit lane. So we'll find out what it all shakes out to be when we get to the end of this race.
Less than a half an hour left on the clock right now in this 2.5 hour event. Abramitis finds his stall nice and smoothly. And is this a battle for position in front of our second place driver?
I'm not sure, but one battle for position that we definitely should look at is the battle for fourth. This is Waring and Walker as they head up Radion. Now Walker did not get a great run up Radion that particular time, but they're both in BMWs, so the draft effect still should be there for Walker in order to catch up in the back of Waring. He's not going to get him this time, but Walker definitely putting the pressure on.
And this is critically important for both of them. There is a single point splitting this pair right now. So if he can make this pass, then Walker is likely to overtake that 336 in the Pro Drivers Championship. He certainly came out close. The pit strategy seems to be working for the 97, but now he's got to execute.
And that is half of the battle here. We've seen how difficult it is to pass, and that has been in cars that are different models, now driving in 2 BMWs. So the pressure all on James Walker here to get this done. Runs a little bit wide there mid-corner at Pujol, but I think that was a little bit deliberate, just trying to get some clear air onto the front of that car, maybe get a little bit more front downforce to help the car turn in.
I can report that Justin Morton absolutely got held up. I can report that Justin Morton absolutely got held up on this lap in the third position. He's got Christian Challoner bearing down on him as we continue to watch this battle between Waring and Walker. Absolutely the place to be, but just to let you know.
There is Christian Challoner. Oh, and somebody went off.
That was Wayne Hutchison.
Where is he going? He's kind of off in the alfalfa. There he goes. There's the track, buddy. Head towards the black stuff.
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting things that I've seen. That's not where the pit lane is, Wayne.
He did get help, but he just keeps going the wrong way.
Decides to mow the grass instead.
It's just trying to do a good public service for the people of Belgium, make sure that grass is nice and even keel. I think that's what Wayne was out there to do today.
Okay, well, it's now becoming a battle for P2 because Smith is in, Morton is in, and Waring and Walker are split by only half a second.
There they go, well, not the lap, but the position on Smith and Morton. Look at this. Oh boy, I think Walker might have actually left the track. Let's see whether or not he has to pay it back. Walker ends up getting a slowdown penalty.
Crucial mistake right there from James Walker. Now, he was quick enough to close him down. Let's watch. Here's a good example. Watch where the curb ends on the left-hand side.
Just missed it.
Barely missed it, did James Walker. Now, as everything stabilizes, that gap is about 3.3 seconds as they work their way down the hill. With only 22 minutes left to go in this session, guys, I'm not sure he's going to have the speed to close that down.
I think you're right on that one. It's 3.5 seconds. Let's see what the lap times have looked like comparatively on them. Fastest lap for Waring, a 2:16.7. Walker's fastest lap is a 2:17 flat. That right there tells me that he is not going to be quick enough. The last couple laps, 2:17.4, 2:17.8 for Walker with a 2:17.9, 2:17.8. So, yeah, it's going to be an extremely tough one for the 97, which has got to be frustrating since he knew, I would imagine that he was aware coming into this, he's so close in points to Waring.
Yeah, especially because of that points haul now. And now Walker can only hope that Chris Yatito, who's up ahead of Waring right now, a lapped car, is going to hold him up as much as Wallet had held them up earlier on. And that's really the only hope that Walker has to close back in. 21 minutes to go, and James Walker 3 seconds behind, and that's holding pretty steady.
Here's the other thing to consider. Remember, it's not just the Drivers' Championship on the line, but the Team's Championship. And right now, first and second is Forge and Evolve, respectively. Warring races for Forge, Walker races... Warren races for Evolve, and Walker races for Forge. So that's points he's giving up to their rivals.
Yeah, and that's not exactly going to go over well in the team briefing room, but he did put up a good fight as much as possible. Able to pull it down by a couple of tenths, it looks like, on that last lap. But he's going to have to hope, I think, for something to catch out Waring, and maybe that's going to be in the form of some lap traffic that they're coming up on right now.
There's getting to be more and more of this lap traffic because we only have 17 cars on the lead lap currently. Justin Kirby is the last of them, and Challenger has just been gobbling them up and spitting them out. So the number one car with such incredible pace today has meant that many have found themselves unable to complete the expected 63 laps.
Yeah, absolutely, and Andrew Waring just falling back. Well, actually, sorry, Walker actually falling back another 3 tenths just over the beginning of this lap, unfortunately. So as Waring goes around there, as he got himself past Tito, and he's now got relatively clean air, but he's got a little bit more lap traffic up ahead of him.
We have a good battle between Halleck and Steele, and I think Halleck was able to take that 23rd position. Let's get a replay of this one because Ryan fought this tooth and nail for sure. And then after this replay, Eric Smith just had a problem. He's one of our front runners. This was in Puhan, so let's watch this pass.
Yeah, so here he goes, and this is a pretty textbook pass up the Kimmel Straight. Just late braking around the inside. Look at that, a nice defense there from the McLaren, but unfortunately just a little bit more arms out for the 36. And he's able to sneak his way by. Wow, very close there. And there is Eric Smith spinning out as he went through Puhan. This was just unstableness of the rear end under braking through Puhan.
And yeah. Smith is one of those that didn't take tires this last time. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to say the other part of it is that he got that right rear tire up onto the curbing when he tried to throw it around the corner. And I think that's what led to the overall instability of that Mercedes that spent its spinning round.
I think Justin Morton and Travis Worling are about to have some fun. You can see them on screen. Morton ahead in the red and black car, and the deep brown of Travis Worling just behind him, but can't hold on coming through the Blanchimont kink. As we watch from the gearbox, we get a view of the onboard as well, watching the VR user just look his way through the apexes.
You're probably wondering, how is Worling so much quicker than Morton through the turns? And that's because Worling took tires the last time. Morton fuel only, 18.7 seconds for Morton in the pit lane. Travis Worling a minute 0.7. So this is a pretty good run. Now he's got to get really solid and smooth here through Eau Rouge, up Radion, and now through the Kimmel curve. And they're going to head onto the Kimmel Straight. Is he close enough to make a move? I don't think so, but let's see whether or not Worling thinks better.
Yeah, it's going to be close. He's gaining on him quite quickly, but then Worling backs out of it as they approach Lacombe. Could he pull in over under here? Remember, Worling on those fresher tires as he exits out isn't able to take advantage of them. So down the hill we go once again.
Got a little bit of a narrower line there from Worling. Morton struggling to get full grip. He looks very, very strong through No Name. That's Morton running wide. Could we see another pass through Puhal?
He's going to show his nose, but no. Oh, no, he is going to go for it. Given some space by Justin Morton, but fair play, he holds him off. Travis Worling gets a better exit down towards Fanyes. And how are you going to go for the pass into Puhan, but not into Fanyes? A brave man on one corner, but maybe not the other. The 9D will get another chance at it maybe later.
Yeah, Justin definitely does not want to get spun out here. He's got a really good points day on his hands for Forge, being the fastest Forge driver right now. But Worling really breathing up his back right now. as they come through Paul Frere towards Blanchimont. Here we go. The small left kink, and then Blanchimont. Travis Worling backing off just a little bit in order to set up Blanchimont a little bit better. But look at that, Justin Morton powering down, able to get through there cleanly. He's going to be able to hold off Waring into the braking zone, into the chicane.
And there's only 5 points between them, 2 positions. There's one driver splitting them on the points table right now, Kevin Hill. But these two are locked in battle, not just on track, but in the championship. So Justin Morton has good reason to want to try and beat him. I'm not sure if he'll be able to overtake him in points with these finishing positions, but it'll certainly help.
And Tom Abramatis unfortunately cut Radion, and he lost the position to Joshua Chin for 5th position up ahead of these guys. So he's now all alone by himself in 5th. But here we go, Warling with a great run through Radion this time.
He's a lot closer. And this Ford has looked slippery in a straight line. He's already got much better speed, about 3 or 4 miles an hour quicker. He's got the inside. Morton doesn't cover him off, tries to come back down into the braking zone, but it appears that Worling has got the job done.
Indeed, he does. A textbook pass going into Lacombe from Travis Worling. Those new tires paying absolute dividends for the number 90.
Next up the road is probably a road too far, as Driscoll's about 15 seconds ahead in that 8th spot. But even still, every place is valuable. Everybody also has taken their second stop, so these positions are as is, and if you're going to want to take a spot, you have to overtake on track. Christian Challoner, in the meantime, is now up to 18.5 seconds over Andrew Waring, who's watched the gap behind him to Walker yo-yo a bit. It's hovering at about 3 seconds most of the time.
Christian Challoner, Andrew Waring, James Walker, and Bradley Haley all in their starting positions right now on track. Tom Abramatis, before that cutting of Radion, also was in his starting position. Joshua Chin is going to be up 3 now in 5th position. Travis Worling passing Justin Morton would nudge him up 1 position from his starting position. Justin Morton's up 2. He started in 12th position. So, oh my goodness, just a lot of cars after 2 hours and 10 minutes still in their starting positions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Top 4, all exactly where they began. Josh Chin is the one who's been doing best here in the race compared to where he began. Helped by Tom, of course, but you have to remember that Josh Chin had his own issues earlier on, so gaining those 3 spots since the beginning has done him well. Jeff Schmeier up 6, I see, in 15th. He started from 21st, so not too bad for the number 30. Trent Brown, who we were watching earlier on, has gained 1 of his positions recently, but he is up 12th from where he began. So credit to that orange Lamborghini. For a brief moment, we showed Christian Challoner from outside the car. DJ, why don't we hop inside the number 1 machine and give an onboard lap here with our current champion, 2-time champion, and points leader.
Well, all right, we join at one of the most terrifying corners of the track. This is Blanchimont. You can take it just about flat out in these cars, maybe a little bit of lift if you're trying to save fuel. Now under the bridge and heavy onto the binders here, down through the gears into first gear for bus stop. You want to take a little bit of the curbing, but not too much, and let the car run as wide as possible there to carry momentum out of the corner. Now you get a little bit of breather as you start to work your way up through the gears before braking hard at the 75-meter point for La Source. Now there's a lot more exit here than you think there is, but you got to make sure to keep 2 tires on that right side of the curbing. Now take a breath before you head up the fearsome Eau Rouge Radion complex. It grows in your mirrors. Get over to the left, swing the car to the right, feather the throttle ever so slightly, and there you're up and over the hill, and now you get the chance to breathe. Keep the car in 6th gear. Christian bringing it over to the left of the track right now, just getting ready for Lacombe. When it comes up here just after the 100-meter board, hard onto the brakes and down into 2nd gear. Again, taking a decent amount of curbing. You don't want to go all the way to the right because you've got to get ready for Malmedy. Bring it through there and be very careful. It's very easy to run wide. Now downhill, Make sure you don't lock up the front tires there or have a little bit of correction as you get through Brussels. That corner tightens away, and then you get ready for No Name. Little bit of a lift through here, maybe a jab of the brakes. Watch that you don't take too much of the exit curbing. Now you have to breathe again before you get ready for Pujol. Coming through here, lift off, drop it down into fourth gear, be late on the throttle as you run it wide, and then bring it back tight in and let it run wide again. Now a little bit of a breather before you get over to the left and line up for Fanyes. That's where you want to get on the brakes right about the curbing and then bring it through these chicanes. It's a long, long corner. You don't want to get on the throttle too early or it will throw you off. Now get back over to the left and bring it through the right-hander. Take just the right amount of exit and keep it over there before you hit Stavlo, and then let the car run wide on exit. You want to maximize speed here because just after you get through curve Paul Frere, this is the second longest straightaway on the track, and this brings you right back to the terrifying Blanchimont corner, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a lap around Spa-Francorchamps.
While that lap was going on, Nick Kuhn has been seeing a car grow in his mirrors. It's the 888 of Chris Yatito. He's been running consistently faster laps than that number 19 car. And I think we might have a pass on our hands unless Nick can do some stout defending in these final 10 minutes.
Yeah, this is Chris making a recovery from a spin that he made in Pujol ahead of Andrew Waring and James Walker about 5 laps ago. So Chris trying to improve his position up in front of Nick Kuhn. Now, these guys are all lapped down to Christian Challenger, who we saw go around. We saw Chris take us around, or rather DJ take us around on that onboard lap. Now, Chris Yatito doing a great job in that Lamborghini. As I said, he had that spin, but now he's catching up to the back of Nick Kuhn, and we know how fast these Lambos are in a straight line. If he gets a good exit here off of La Source, which he gets a okay exit, that should be good enough, he might have a run up Eau Rouge and Radio.
Down towards Eau Rouge now. Let's see what the Lambo has underneath him. Took no tires this last time. So does he have the grip? Kuhn seems to think he does because he immediately tries to weave to break that slipstream. Yatito, though, shows that is a fruitless effort. He gathers him up. He's within about a car length, but he lifts by the time they get to the braking zone. Yatito knows he'll get a better chance maybe later down the line, but he is now caught up to Nick Kuhn. And that number 19 really will have to try and play some defense.
I mean, later down the line's only going to be about 4 or 5 laps, DJ. We're running out of time here.
Yeah, we are. Clock ticking down to 8 minutes left, and with your leader, Christian Challenger, putting in lap times about 2:17.2. It's not a whole lot of time, but there you see Tito getting a pretty good run out of No Name, bringing it down into Pujol. Both cars look like they're pretty well kept together. Yatito able to avoid some of the pitfalls that we've seen befall those other Lamborghinis out here today.
So far, Nick Kuhn is clinging to that 18th spot. Yatito, one of the newcomers this season, and has certainly shown well, popping up in a number of the pro split. There are a lot of drivers, if you're new to the majors, that take part that we don't even get to see necessarily here on the GSRC broadcasts, as they tend to run multiple splits in most events with a lot of people interested in running, and these are your quickest and most critically, your championship contenders. Falling back a little bit here, the 888, and not only that, going very wide.
Yeah, that was a terrifying moment, and the Lambo probably got a little loose on the entry to Blanchimont and just had to back it down, make sure not to spin out the car. He's already had his fair share of scary moments here in that Lambo, so just backing it down, letting Nick Kuhn go away a little bit, get some of that tire temperature down, to make sure he doesn't lose it again before the end of this race in 6.5 minutes time.
Well, he certainly caught him quickly. Seems like, you know, this is looking very more open wheel style, the way that the drivers are having trouble making the passes, because we watched Yatito close that gap down. Now that he caught him, it's suddenly like that pace has evaporated. And I would have thought it'd be a much easier overtake for him.
Yeah, I would have too, especially given the outright speed that we're used to seeing that Lamborghini have. but just not really able to do it today. I think part of it is, Joe, is the relatively cool track conditions, just making everything handle a little bit differently out here for these GT3s.
We haven't seen that temperature change a bit since we started this race. It's still stuck at 68 Fahrenheit, with maybe tiny changes in the wind temperatures and a little wide at the apex. That's exactly what Chris has been waiting for.
Yeah, but can Chris make the move? It's into Pouin, so he decides not to. Oh, he gets a little bit loose. Oh boy, he hangs on to it. But Chris Yatito in the Lambo, once again, getting loose through Pouin. We've seen it so many times today, DJ.
We really have, and I'm sorry to Chris there. I kind of jinxed him saying that he didn't suffer it on that last lap, but that Lamborghini, I've got to say, just doesn't look like the right car choice for Spa out here in these conditions.
So I think we are 3 laps to go here. This time by, Christian Challenger just went across the line with a 20-second gap back to Andrew Waring. So the uncomfortable distance that he was to that driver from Evolve Sim Sports is going to grow somewhat. It came down to 6 markers, which is not often in recent championships that we've seen Christian be that close to the car behind him in the points. But he's doing everything he can to make sure that he can be the first-time triple champion here in the majors.
And interestingly enough, Travis Warling just put in his fastest lap of the race at a 2:17.5. So Travis Warling down in 9th position, feeling pretty good about his car right now, down in that Ford GT3. Now, as you know, DJ, you said that the Lambo is not the right car to be driving around here. The only driver I think that would disagree with you is Trent Brown, who has made up those 12 positions. He's our most successful Lambo driver so far. But our other Lambo drivers, Kevin Hill, Justin Kirby, Chris Yatito, they've all struggled. And Mark Stevenson, we've been talking about them a lot about spins and off tracks, so I think you might be right about that.
Yeah, there are some cars that just don't fit the exact track. You know, the one car that we're not seeing out here today is the Audi that is also part of this GT3 makeup. I'm frankly a little surprised that there aren't a few more Fords out here, as normally they have some pretty good straight line speed, and if you know how to control them, you can get them handling pretty well. But Travis Warling doing a good job to carry the standard for the Blue Oval, currently in 9th place.
This is Andrew Waring on our screen, still sitting in 2nd, and he is unfortunately going to see 5 more points separating himself and Christian Challenger, so it'll be up to 11 after today's event, if my math is correct. Challenger going across the line right now, 2 to go as he comes across. Remember, the finish line here is different from the start line. We saw them start at La Source, after La Source rather, but they will finish after the bus stop. There's La Source hairpin right there that Christian Challenger is exiting, taking it right to the edge of the track limits. He put those wheels right on the white line at the end of those curbs.
Gotta love that a little bit from Christian, even in absolute, doing absolute domination here. He's still running incredibly fast laps down into the 2:16s. It's really the only driver outside of Andrew Waring that's been able to tickle those numbers. And Waring only beating him by about 0.04 of a second when it comes to fastest lap. Oh, that's a car off in the background.
That was Kevin Hill, actually.
Yeah, Kevin Hill had a slowdown from cutting Radion and ends up trying to tuck in behind Christian Challenger and follow his braking point, and learn very quickly that he doesn't quite have the brakes to do that at this stage of the race.
Yeah, so that's now the 14th place driver going a lap down. And Austin Espedy next up the road, but he's way up there. Even still, getting it down to only 13 cars on the lead lap of a 2+ minute lap here tells you the kind of pace that Christian Challenger has been putting in that Porsche. Kind of wonder if this is another one of his points he's trying to make, because I'm looking, and where is the next nearest Porsche? Is there another Porsche still running right now? I don't think there is.
There isn't, Joe. The only other Porsche out there was Liam Quinn, and Liam Quinn was a DNS today. So Challenger, the only one in that Porsche, doing a great job with it. I talked about it at the top of the broadcast. It is known as a rear-engine car that can get a little bit tail-happy, but Christian showing absolutely none of that.
Hard to drive? Absolutely. Massively quick? Absolutely.
Yeah, a small correction. Excuse me. Quinn did start this race, but he is our only DNF so far, as 31 runners are still going, which is a fantastic stat as we now take the white flag for 1 to go, as Christian Challenger is looking for victory number 27 now on his roster. And what a run it has been. Got challenged briefly by those on alternate strategies, but he didn't let it phase him at all. Just kept cool and up and over Radion one more time. He stays within the track bounds. He's got 22 seconds back to Andrew Royan, his championship rival, and 24 down to James Walker, his other championship rival, next closest.
Yeah, Christian Challenger just once again proving why he is our current championship leader. Just the way that he's been able to navigate this race from start to this point. I'm not going to say finish, don't want to jinx him again. But, I mean, in the wild card last round, he was not super happy about the discipline or the choice of vehicles, but I think he's showing where he prefers to race, which is on the tarmac and in traditional GT vehicles. And I mean, we've known him for a long time as an oval specialist, but he's come out here into the major series and proven to everyone that he absolutely belongs in whatever car you can give him. And so here is Christian going through Fanny's one last time, trying to make it yet another win on the season.
I think for a couple years now, I consider him an everything specialist. That just doesn't seem there's much that he is bad at. And earlier I said that he was trying to make a point. We saw last season at Bathurst, he hopped into the 4GT because at that time that was the car that was considered considered subprime, if you will. And I think based on the attendance, the Porsche is sort of the same thing here today, but doesn't matter what car you put him in, he's gonna be quick because Christian Challenger is gonna win here today at Spa-Francorchamps for the 2.4 hours of Spa.
A great run there for Christian, as we have been documenting. Coming up behind him, Andrew Roaring, and it looks like Walker's been able to close down big time.
Warren maybe short fuel a little bit here, or is he backing off just to bring it home safely? Warren accelerates to the line. He is going to take a second place as Walker was oh so close, but he'll wind up shy and still get a podium, at least here today. And Bradley Haley, the next gap back, going to get himself a fourth, exactly where he started. And a big credit to Josh Chin, gaining 3 positions at the sharp end of the field is no mean feat to get 5th. Again, it was quite a big field that was lapped here today. In fact, more than half the field was lapped, as only 13 will finish on the lead lap. Austin Espedy, the last of them. I see Driscoll close, but not going to be a challenge there. Smith beat him to 7th, so no more battles as the last of them come to the line. And I think we have a chance to head to break here. So let's give ourselves a small rest while the drivers do likewise. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. The 2.4 hours of Spa and the majors wound up seeing Christian Challenger take his 27th career victory in the series. He finished a good 25 seconds ahead of Andrew Waring down in P2, with James Walker finishing third. Each of them started in those same positions, and they are all in those same positions in the points championship. Bradley Haley ran an admirable fourth as Josh Chin climbed his way forward to a P5. Abramitis, with his one-off, unfortunately went down one position. But considering this is his first time here in the majors, I have to give him big kudos for running with the big boys. Eric Smith was P7, Steve Driscoll was P8, and then as Warling in ninth as Justin Morton got himself a top 10.
Vincent Leherbier comes home in 11th position with Brian Bennett in 12th. Austin Espedy comes home in 13th spot with Kevin Hill in 14th. Jeff Schmeier able to hang on to a 15th today with Lyndon Swaby in 16th. Justin Kirby able to finish in 17th today with Nick Kuhn 18th. Chris Yatito falling back to 19th. And then Trent Brown up to 20th from starting 32nd and last on the grid.
Brown was able to get there by passing David K. Hall, who came home in 21st, followed by Mark Stevenson in 22nd. All of these drivers a lap down. Adam Halleck behind him in 23rd, followed by Ryan Steele in 24th and Brian McGreevy in 25th. Behind him, it was Bruce Perry and Brian Barnes, followed by Wayne Hutchinson, with Rob Powers and Len Kinchlow rounding out your top 20.
Wallet was your last finisher. Quinn, your only DNF of the day, sadly. But the man who came home in the lead was Christian Challenger. And Christian, you didn't quite lead all of them. Some of it due to strategy. Actually, all of it really due to strategy. But what were you thinking the first time you came back around and you suddenly saw that Ford GT in front of you? Did you know that that's what was going on?
Dude, I thought that was badass. I'm so glad that somebody was driving a Ford GT. It's like I saw that and I almost didn't even want to pass it. I was glad to see a Ford GT lead a lap. So yeah, no complaints at all. I figured for sure that it was a no tire strat though, and yeah, I mean I could tell on my outlap that clearly he was down a lot on grip and whatnot. So wasn't worried about that. The bit that I was kind of worried about actually was kind of how loose my own car felt, and I could tell it was going to be a problem towards the end of the first stint. I kind of missed it a little bit with the balance and whatnot. I trimmed it all the way out because I thought it's cold. There's a lot of track rubber. It's actually going to be really good. There's going to be tons of grip available, and yeah, that there is. But for whatever reason, my balance just went away. So like at the beginning of the race, it felt pretty good, and then with kind of 5 to go on that stint, I was starting to slide the rears a bit, and I was like, I kind of got some high-speed oversteering, some low-speed understeering. It's not that great. And then I put new tires on and, lighter fuel, and it was like, it's okay. And then towards the end of that second one, it was starting to get edgy, and I was like, this is going to be really tricky. And sure enough, the third stint, I honestly thought I was going to die. I was like, I know I've got a decent advantage, but every single time through Rouge and Radeon was just unbelievably scary. So many laps where I had to take the off track and whatnot just to not drop my own car. So got some work to do on that score. Definitely wasn't what I was expecting in terms of balance. So it probably didn't look all that exciting from the outside, but yeah, was hustling that one for sure. I mean, Andrew was really, really fast. I think if he'd have been able to hold on a little bit closer at the end of that first stint, he might have seen there was probably an opportunity with me with how much I was kind of dancing around the track and whatnot. So yeah, it was actually a fun race. Not sure what it was like as a broadcast, but it probably looked easier than it was. That's for sure.
Well, I was about to say if a 30-second gap is tricky to you, I'd hate to see what a regular one looks like. Honestly, you mentioned your I guess we'll call it bias towards that Ford GT. We brought that up briefly because of what you told us about your reasoning for choosing it back at Bathurst last year. This time, you chose another unpopular car. There was only one other Porsche, and you were the only one that finished. Was this another case of you trying to prove a point?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I won't kind of lie about that. There was a bit of suspicion that perhaps for the official 24-hour BOP, which is what's being ran here in the majors, that maybe our handicap on the Porsche was a little bit over the top, and I wanted to prove that I was confident that it wasn't, and by doing so, I would race the car and I would try and win in the car. So I think somewhat did that. So that was cool. But the other thing is just like the Porsche, like I was so excited when I knew that this was in dev and whatnot, and it's kind of the first car where I was involved all the way sort of from the beginning of it, so to speak. And that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of just liking the car and a bit of trying to prove the point.
Interesting stuff to hear from behind the scenes. But yeah, it looked like you certainly had control of things regardless. Congratulations on your 27th career victory. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to my BOP coworker, Tom, back there in the 22 Mercedes. Just missed out on the top 5, but he kind of went with the Mercedes because he wasn't expecting to see that many of them. Felt like it was a bit of an underrated car. And then when he got in here and saw there was quite a few, I think he would have probably gone with the Ferrari because he was of the opinion that Ferrari was a very, very good car. And yeah, a little bit disappointed to see not much take up on that one. So I think he might have gone with that instead. But first kind of race for him in majors, and obviously, yeah, pretty good one. I mean, the field for this was very strong. I mean, I talked about it for Euro, where kind of everybody knows the track a lot. It's obviously been ran a lot in official racing recently, so everybody's got a lot of practice in, and it's kind of, in terms of a road course deal, it's a GT3 car on a well-known track. Everybody's pretty much at almost their best. So for him to come in and be contending and just missing out on the top 5, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, we were impressed with Tom as well, and that was our winner, Christian Challoner. Up next, Adam has caught up with Andrew Waring, who didn't seem to have the pace.
Yeah, Andrew, you were able to keep up with Christian Challoner for the first 10 laps of that first stint, but then he started to run away from you, and you ended up getting into a very nice battle with James Walker. Now, talk to me about the strategy that you ended up pulling on Walker to get the gap that you did by the end of the race.
Well, yeah, pretty much just watched the Euro race and saw what Tim did and thought, that looked pretty good, so why not try that? So I did the full first stint, then changed tires, and then just split the last stint up into 2, which was 19 and 18 lap stints, or 19 and 19 lap stints. And honestly, yeah, the first stint was really nice. Like I felt Christian and I were kind of, there's a 10th between us. I made that mistake on the first lap, which let him get away. But honestly, he probably had like a 10th, maybe half a 10th on me every lap, which wasn't too bad. But then I don't really understand what was going on in the second and third stint. The balance of my car was just horrendous. I could barely drive it even. It was really weird.
Yeah, interesting that you said the same thing that Christian did. He said a similar thing about his balance on especially the back end of the second stint and the third stint.
Yeah.
But talk to us about, there are also some interesting moments between you and James and some lap traffic as well. Talk to us about how it was navigating the lap traffic around here today.
I thought overall everybody did really good. When I came up on a forged car after James got his slowdown, I was expecting a little bit more of a fight, but he raced me really nice and let me by. But I was extremely thrilled to see when James got that slowdown, to be honest. I know it's probably not ideal from a broadcaster's point of view, but I was hanging on for dear life.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Forge team, Evolve and Forge are locked into this very tight battle in the points championship. So this has got to feel really good coming in second and getting some good points for your team today.
Yeah, and overall, I think, Steve and Kevin did a great job. Kevin drove a heck of a race. He had to do a switch to a nose tire stop, and then Steve has had some personal things where he hasn't had a lot of practice. So for him to come home where he did, it's good. And I haven't checked the actual results yet, but just doing a quick look, I didn't see another Forge car for, I think, until 19th after James. So it looks really good for us in terms of team points. But it's going to be an ongoing battle for the rest of the year. And obviously Kinetics starting to come on a little stronger as the season goes on.
Absolutely. Andrew, congratulations on your second place finish today. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Just you guys, GSRC, another great broadcast, I'm sure. Majors, obviously, for hosting it. This was a big event, obviously, for the majors. And then we got our sponsors at Evolve. We have Direct Innovations and Tranco. Can't wait till we get to Darlington, actually, which is a change for me, considering I usually dread ovals, but I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Well, those Gen 6 cars will be waiting for you heading into the next round, and we look forward to seeing you there, Andrew. Congratulations.
Cheers, guys, and see you then.
That was Andrew Waring, our second place finisher, and James Walker has come in third, and he's talking to DJ.
Well, James, it was a pretty grueling race out there, and you put up a really good fight, scuppered a little bit by a off-track cut course penalty, but you still got to feel pretty good coming home on the podium.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be that close to Andrew when I came out with the pits. I was thinking I was going to be closer to Bradley because I didn't know what the pit time would be for just fuel. So I was like just cruising, trying to stay in front of him, and then I pulled in front of behind him anyways, close enough I could have passed him. But that slowdown has gotten me before, and it got me again.
So when that happened, were you then in sort of full push mode to try to get past by him, or were you just kind of waiting to see what would come? It looked like that gap was hovering and staying pretty solid at around 3 seconds.
I was trying to push up to him, but traffic didn't really go in my favor. And I realized I should just, chill and ride it out to the end of the race. Because there was only like a few laps left, and I was going to catch him that quickly. It was very unlikely I would have passed him anyways. Andrew's pretty tough to pass.
Well, as we now turn our sights away from Belgium and to a more American style of racing, going to Darlington, obviously this is going to be a pretty close battle, I think, for everybody, especially in the teams championship. But how you feeling about it?
I am not excited for Darlington. It was one of the races that I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. But now that I'm so close to the lead in the championship, I kind of have to. So I'm going to have to lean on some of my teammates, Matt Dunhorst, Mark, Justin, hopefully carry me through the race.
Well, I'm sure they'll be able to give you lots of good pointers and help along the way. James, anybody you'd like to thank for this third place here today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Forge, Rethread, Major's Garage, and you guys for doing the broadcast.
Well, it is our pleasure, and congratulations again. That was James Walker, your third place finisher here today. Joe?
Which is going to close us out after this broadcast. But before we go, we want to give another mention of the charity of this event, which is the Hunger Project. If you need to check them out, we have a link in the description below, but it is thp.org. And also a thanks to the majors for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thank you to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Her Bandcamp is there in case you want to check out more of her work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. And please check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because as you heard, the next race coming up is going to be at Darlington later on this month. So definitely stick around. It's going to be classic Cup cars, 87 Cup cars at that one. However, we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.